But she said she was on.
No playing in the pool.
Okay.
I guess it's saying my next watching over.
And yeah, we went, the master.
Oh, you're actually reading.
The master. Back because.
As long as for.
It's weird, okay, so he walks straight, he literally falls into. Yeah.
Let's have cookies again.
And you said you're a lot of times.
Yes, ma'am.
Share another husband's wife.
Hi, everyone. How are these guys doing? Fantastic. I'm lucky enough that I get to start off a team meeting today. I'm always sitting back here with the mouse. Let's start with some bucket fills. Any bucket fills for today?
Dalton, I have one for Dalton. He always entertains my questions and advice, always.
Is it always entertaining question?
Well, everybody in this room. I'm just gonna fill everybody.
I like unilateral bucket fill. Easy.
All the best. All the good, everyone.
I don't know if that's a compliment for everyone or just like a little bit of a dig at Dalton that he doesn't get his own bucket.
Well, he also gets his own.
I have 2 buckets. Okay. Okay, any more? Well, let's get one more bucket fill.
I have one for Mikkel. I tried to do that last week, but he jumped in to help me in a huge way while I was out of town. So just I really appreciate his help.
Awesome.
I actually
Randy?
have another one.
Okay.
For Brooke, she came and helped me with a service project for a single mom who is having a seriously crazy hard time. She came down and along with Kelsey with Old Republic and did some service work for her last week. Yeah,
That's awesome.
just on her spare time for no good reason
Oh,
other than to hate.
what awesome thing to do, bro. Okay, so today in the market center, we don't have tech bar. Thursday, I am doing an AI workshop though with Gemini. So if you guys want to get your questions answered on what you can do with Gemini, all the new features that have been released. This includes generating documents, pictures. If you use Chrome, you'll have a Gemini tab up in the top where you can just have Gemini look at your browser and tell you information about it. So all things Gemini will be on Thursday. And then this Saturday, family reunion starts. So if you haven't bought your tickets yet, it's probably too late.
No, it's not, there's still people selling them too.
Still people selling them. This is going to be an expensive flight. We are doing the digital experience here though on Monday and Tuesday.
Saturday night, Sunday, Monday.
Okay. We will have some things here Monday and Tuesday as well though.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yep. But if you don't want to pay for the digital experience yourself, you can talk with me, Jessica, Kaylee. We're gonna be hosting it here as well. So you can come in, watch some of the speakers that are presenting, and we've got the schedule up and posted if you guys are interested on which ones you might want to see.
I give you permission for Monday and Tuesday.
Okay, thank you.
I mean. Somebody should.
You're doing great. I think you're doing great. I'm trying. I was told I was gonna be up here like 3 minutes ago. To prepare. Don't listen to the back row. Okay, so family reunion, all this stuff is gonna be on the digital experience. So if you want to catch Gary's vision speech, social media con will be kind of a weird one. It's gonna be all day long. So you're gonna get lots and lots of information from that. Inspirational morning starts at like 5:30. So that one might be a little bit hard to catch. But then the Jay Shetty keynote we will have going on Tuesday in the office.
Do you know what time that is?
The original keynote is going to be at 8 a.m., but we're going to record it and then replay it for TV.
Oh.
The awards gala. So KW Utah is doing our awards gala on March 6th. If you guys want to go, it's going to be formal / semi-formal attire, cash bar. Should be a lot of fun. You do need to RSVP, but I'm not sure where you do that. Okay, AI training with Shoni. If you guys haven't been on recently, I think they've gotten better. There was a couple where, if I'm being honest, I think there was some mid content, but he's gotten back to doing some things that I find valuable and that are things you can actually start implementing. So this one is going to be end of the month, 11 to 12:15. It's always on Zoom, and that's just the registration QR code. Our accountability group, this is the last Friday of every month. So this last time we just had Mikkel and Stephanie. She's not here, but oh, there you are. But we would love more of you guys to show up if you want help hitting your goals this year. One of the best ways is to tell others what you're doing and have them talk to you weekly. So what this is we just assign you an accountability buddy for the month. You guys are going to set a schedule of when you want to talk to each other. And the whole thing is not to be, oh, you didn't hit your goals, that's okay. But to be like, okay, what can you do better? Or how can you change your activities this next week so you are hitting your goals? So we want you guys to succeed this year, and however we can help, we want to be able to do that for you. The Easter egg hunt, your client event's coming up. It's going to be April 4th. You guys want to participate, please scan the QR code. We'll be getting out smart plans for you guys for emails, social media posts. We will be setting up Easter egg stuffing events. If you remember last year, we had 2 of them. So we stuffed something like 5,000 eggs. And it was actually a lot of fun. We did the raffle last year, and overall, I think it's a really good event. More people scanning. Okay, wants and needs. Justin, I see yours is up top. You want to tell us a little bit about it?
That's because it's the best one, right above Sherry's. Yeah, it's actually in Nibley, but some people don't know where Nibley is, so it's right before you get to Logan. 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, 2-story. It's totally like he just remodeled it, didn't plan on moving, took a new job, and now we got to get it sold. So if you know somebody, and it is a VA at like 5 and something if they want to assume it.
Awesome.
How close is it to Ted's gas station?
Not very much.
Head is gone.
Ted's is gone now?
I would think so.
Not very close. Not very close, yeah.
Sherry, you've got 5.
So for everyone, actually a great opportunity to call everyone for 4 investor opportunities to invest in real estate. 3 or 4 of them are rentals, 2, well, actually 3 are already rented. 1 is lifetime tenants, 1's a next to new condo in Clearfield, super cute little 2-bedroom, 2-full-bath pool. That's already being rented in Taylor. That's not too bad either. 1984, new HVAC windows, great little investment opportunity. The tenants want to be there for the 5. Park City is also just an investment opportunity. Basically, you can either be there or it's rented out every single day that you're not. So basically, you're paid for. And then a wicked awesome, especially compared to the comps in Bountiful, listed aggressively at $525 for them to move to Texas. One of the only ones with 2 full bathrooms, really updated remodel, etc. So $525, and it's technically, I think, now North Salt Lake annexed in. It's literally on the last street. So killer location, all that. So, and then Saratoga Springs, $350, new condo.
Okay, so the middle 3 are all investments.
Yes, and or the Bountiful would be an incredible rental property. There's several people looking at that, including agents themselves, to purchase that.
Okay.
4 of the 5.
Awesome. Anybody else?
No, just Sherry and I with all the business.
Nice. Super detailed. Okay. Well, that keeps it quick.
Welcome.
Now we got to get into the fun stuff.
Bucket, filling your bucket, because look at you, the last minute, showing up and dealing with all of our crap.
Bucket fills are over. I appreciate it, but if we could save it for next week.
So in Buckville Ken for actually doing this class. I
Yes.
appreciate him, and I forgot to put on a need that I do have hired that be in Layton, North Layton Junior High, 550 or below. Anything. They already have 2 girls, they're military, 2 girls in different schools. We need North Layton Junior High. Layton Kirkville, under 550. VA. Thank you.
Okay.
Sean.
Well, I'm excited for Ken's presentation. If you haven't seen it yet, which is why you're here, it looks really sharp. So Ken, whenever you're ready, we'll have you get started.
So, let's just get the elephant out of the room here to start with. None of us want to be here this evening.
Speak for yourself. We are so excited.
We have to, it's a mandatory class. I'm going to apologize in advance. I was going to tell you a little bit how this works with the mandatory class. So every October, everyone who's a certified instructor, along with the Division of Real Estate, get together for a 2-day conference. And it's mandatory in order to be a licensed instructor. And one of the afternoons of those 2 days, we as instructors in the Division of Real Estate, in particular the investigations department, sit down for 4 to 6 hours and talk about what's going wrong in the industry. And this curriculum that we're going to talk about today is a product of that mastermind between the enforcement division and instructors. And we also invite broker owners to come to that as well, because they want their feedback. What are the problems they're seeing with their agents? What are the problems they're seeing with other agents?
You need to silence yourself.
Yeah.
He has a wife calling. Like, this is the time to silence your cell phone. That was Cindy, right? She has her back. Cindy calls. Then he goes, oh, now it's your reminder.
Thank you. God, that's going great already. So that's how this curriculum comes to be. So it's not my curriculum. It's not Keller Williams' curriculum. It's the curriculum that the Division of Real Estate sends out to us at the beginning of each year, and it's what we have to teach for the coming year in order for you to get your mandatory credits. Make sure when you fill this out too, that you also put the last 4 of your license, the SA or the broker, or whatever it is, put those last 4, because I need all of the numbers in your license, just not the first 7. I need all of them in order to give you credit. So that's how this course comes to be. So it's their curriculum, it's not my curriculum. It is scheduled for 3 hours. This is the first time I've taught this curriculum because it's new each year, and I just got it on Wednesday. Normally we get it the last week of December for the new coming year, but I got it on Wednesday. So this is the first time I've seen it too. I'm just kidding. But if it goes badly, that's why. I just got it. And that's not right. All right, so just some housekeeping issues. Just to tell you kind of what the expectations are, is that it is slated for 3 hours. It is their curriculum. We're going to be here as long as we have curriculum to cover. Okay. They're the ones that timed it to 3 hours, not me. Okay, so we're going to do what we need to do in order to cover the material, answer your questions, get your feedback, and when we're done, we're done. Let's all kind of envision that we're on a company retreat and we're in an escape room today. Does that sound exciting? Who's done an escape room? See, Dom's done an escape room, Rusty's done an escape room. Yeah. So we're gonna be in an escape room today. You have to be there until you find the answers or the solution to get out of the room. And that's the curriculum for today. So we're done. You'll know everything you need to know in order to get out of this escape room. We're gonna pause after the first hour, and we're gonna have lunch. Lunch is courtesy of IBEX Home Warranty, so they'll be providing lunch for us. We're gonna take about a 10-minute break then, and then we're gonna come back, and then we're gonna resume for another hour, and then we're gonna take another break. We've got drinks, soft drinks. I have to be careful saying drinks. We have soft drinks and some dessert for you guys.
You know what?
And then we'll come back
Find something.
and we'll finish up the last, okay? So just so you know, I know it's tough to be here for 3 hours and continue to do your business. So if you do need to step out, step out. We'd like you to be focused. You'd have to be here 80% of the time over the next 3 hours in order to get credit. Make sure you sign the roll so you do get credit. And let's get at it. So here are the 8 sections that the division has queued up for 2026. They want to talk about agency basics. Agency is a huge problem in our industry. Fiduciary duties owed to a client. Limited agency. Limited agency is the #1 reason you can get sued in this business, is by not doing limited agency correctly. So it's very important. When is limited agency prohibited? We're going to talk about the new REFC, the changes that were done to the REFC in the last year. We're going to talk about legislative and administrative code. That's a sleeper right there for you. But, we're going to try to make it interesting. We're going to talk about enforcement and industry issues. And then to close things out, we're going to look at a case study. That was an actual case that was brought before the state. And it has to do with social media and advertising. That's a huge thing right now. Agents aren't following the guidelines that the state has put forward for social media advertising. So we're going to talk about that. Okay. All right. Agency basics. So before representing a person, agency agreements must be signed and in writing by all owners. Notice that all is capitalized. I can't tell you how many times as a compliance broker, I get a call from an agent that says, I got a problem. Not everybody that needed to sign my REPC or my listing agreement signed it. And my first question is, why? Why is that the case? Well, they told me that they were the only people on title, but come to find out, there's someone else on title. So how do we protect ourselves to know who actually should be signing our documents if you should? Okay. I go to tax data personally and I print off the tax data sheet. That's the county records, so I can see who is on title. If you're representing a buyer, how do you do it if it's a buyer?
Ask them everybody that's gonna be on the loan. Yep.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
Yeah, it was to be on the loan.
Yeah.
What if it's an LLC
You have to
or
have
a
it.
trust?
You gotta have the documents to show you can sign for it.
Okay, perfect. So make sure that if you're representing, whether it's a listing or a buyer, you're representing somebody who's part of an LLC, a trust, or a corporation, that you have a copy of their articles of incorporation showing who's authorized to sign on their behalf. I can't tell you how many times that happens as well, where we enter into agreement with someone without seeing the documents. Why do we need the documents? In addition to ourselves and our own edification, why else do we need the documents? Title, yeah, title's
Just
finance.
ask for a PR. As soon as you take a listing and you're even negotiating, it's gonna take a couple of days. The best way to do it is just to ask for a PR.
Will you expound a little bit more on a PR? What is that?
It's a preliminary report,
Okay.
and it really tells you the whole history behind the house. Who's the owner? Do they have anything? Do they have any bankruptcy? Do they owe anything? Is there a lien? It's really like for you to see, because sometimes the client doesn't tell you everything, not because they're hiding, but they're just, they forget. And they had a lien. If somebody, let's say my husband will rent a big machine, they're gonna put a lien on my house to make sure that he's gonna return that machine. So sometimes it's just a little detail, but it's better to have. And if it's an LLC, title will always ask you for the first page of the LLC to make sure who is the sign
Yeah, perfect. And where do you get that PR?
from the title
From your
company.
title company.
And it's free. You just give them the address. We give them so much business that they'll do it for you within days.
Yeah, perfect. That's the best way to do it. Get a PR, get a property report from your title company. What I do is the second I think I'm gonna be taking a listing or going on a listing appointment, I make that request to the title company and ask them for the PR. It does take them a day or two to get that for you, but definitely by the time you have your client sign an exclusive right to sell, you definitely want to have reviewed the county records to make sure it's right, okay? What about in the case of divorce? There's a lot of divorce going on. So how do you handle divorce? And get who you need to sign the appropriate documents?
Ask for decree. You
Right?
ask for the divorce decree.
Yeah, ask for divorce decree would be a good one. Look at the title word. Often there's misrepresentations made as to, oh, I have authority to sign the house, when in fact they don't. It's just their preference or their desire to be the one to sell the house. I can't tell you how many times I've been told that story.
ask for a copy of the power of attorney.
Yep. So those are some good things. All right, define the scope of the individual's agency by executing a written agency agreement between the individual and the individual's principal. So you want to make sure you get all of your agreements in writing and that they're done before you actually go out and show them property or you actually list their property. Okay. Agency agreement between individuals and individual's principal, including sellers, the person that you're representing, the buyer you're representing, buyers and sellers, as individuals, represented as limited agency. We're going to talk about limited agency a little bit more in a minute. In the same transaction, that's referring to limited agency. If you're representing both buyer and seller in the same transaction, the owner of the property for which the individual provide property management services. We don't do property management here at the company. So this does talk about property management periodically, but the same is true in property management. If you're going to manage somebody's property, you have to have written permission, you have to have a management agreement in writing to manage their property. I'm sorry, I skipped over your question.
I was just gonna bring up the fact of like a lot of scams out there where people will say they own the property, they want to sell it. Like making sure you get a driver's license and then actually visually meeting somebody, whether it's.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly.
It's become really common in land.
Yes, yes.
That's good.
There's actually a second section in this presentation that talks specifically about land fraud. So we're going to talk specifically about that, but thanks for bringing that up. So you want to have a management agreement. And also if you're doing property management, you're going to have leases and lease agreements. Those need to be in writing as well. In bold, make sure that all, just not some, buyers and sellers sign agency agreements, that all signers have the proper legal authority to sign documents. Like we talked about, LLCs, trusts, etc. Also make sure that LLCs are currently in good standing when the agreements are signed. How do you do that? How do you make sure that an LLC is in good standing? Or how can you, what question should you ask?
The state's website shows all that.
Okay.
Shows it's in good standing.
Yeah, Department of Commerce. All LLCs have to be registered with the state of Utah and they have to be renewed every year. So if you have an LLC, you'll need to do that with yours, but also your clients that have LLCs. You get an email or something in the mail, depending on how you want notification, but every year that needs to be renewed. And there's some documentation that needs to be provided to the state in order to have that LLC continue to move forward as a valid entity. Okay, so you can ask the question, is it registered with the state? And very quickly, you can go in and verify that through the Department of Commerce. I had a situation last week where I was representing a buyer and it was a triplex and the triplex had an HOA. My buyer was very concerned about transferring the HOA to them when they purchased the property. They wanted to make sure that happened and happened at closing so that they became the HOA, leader of the HOA for this triplex. Come to find out that the developer of the triplex did create an LLC. In other words, they had signed documents, but they had never registered it with the state of Utah. Okay, so it doesn't exist from the state of Utah standpoint. Why is that? Why is that an issue legally? What does that mean? If the HOA is not registered with the state of Utah, what is the consequence to the HOA for that not happening?
Find and disband it.
Enforceable.
Okay, is that enforceable? Okay,
Fine.
could be disbanded. You can't collect revenue. You can't collect HOA fees if you legally don't exist. It has to be a legal entity in order to be able to collect HOA fees. So that got into a whole brouhaha with the seller. But actually, once we boiled it all down, it really didn't matter because it wasn't registered with the state. So there was nothing legally we had to do with the state to transfer it. We could just do that through a transfer agreement through title between the buyer and seller. So it actually ended up being okay, but it was an educational project. This guy had built several multifamily projects and had always created HOAs for them, but had never registered them. And technically was committing a crime by collecting HOA fees for an entity that didn't exist legally. So, all right.
There is a website to check HOAs that have been registered.
Yes, same thing through the Department of Commerce, HOAs. Yep, Department of Commerce does licensing. The real estate division that we all belong to is a department within the Department of Commerce. So businesses, HOAs, LLCs, real estate, a lot of the licensing, professional licensing, regardless whether it's a nursing license or whatever it is all regulated by the Department of Commerce. Okay, so with the division of real estate, they have two different codes. So code 162 F 401A, expect you to memorize that, is the code that talks about affirmative actions. Okay, so affirmative actions are things that you are supposed to do. Then there's another code, which is 162 1F 401, which are things that you are not supposed to do. Okay, so the division is divided by shall and shall nots. Okay, and this is the shalls. Okay. For an individual licensee, when executing a binding agreement in a sales transaction, confirm the prior agency disclosure. So when we either list a property or we represent a buyer, it's our duty to confirm whether there was prior agency. Okay, was the property listed before by someone? Or did the buyer have a buyer broker agreement with someone prior to us? So that's what it's talking about, confirming prior agency. Why is that important for us as licensees?
But they're still in an agency agreement, you need to know about it,
Yeah,
because you can't work with them.
yep, exactly. Especially if it's a buyer, right? Buyer broker.
New buyer broker agreement we got, that doesn't have there, it can be with two different agents.
Only if it's property specific.
So that's a little different.
Yeah, if it's property specific, you can, yeah. With the listing agreement, as if the listing agreement has expired or has been terminated and the agent does have a protection period, what happens then? What happens if the client comes to you and says, hey, I want to relist my house, but I have a 1-month protection period?
If it's a valid listing, the protection period is gone.
There you go. There you go. So if the verbiage in the ERS says that your protection period exists unless the principal, which is a seller, enters into another valid listing agreement with another brokerage. So once that happens, then the protection period is over. Okay, so that's good to know because then you don't have to wait, right? All right. This just talks about the different ways, whether it's in a listing agreement, REPC, provisions of a separate agreement with similar language. When executing a lease or rental agreement, same thing, property management, make sure that there's no prior agency involved. Okay. Now we're going to talk about fiduciaries. So we as real estate agents are fiduciaries. Who else in the business world are fiduciaries? Okay, attorneys are fiduciaries. Why is that, Sherry? Why is an attorney a fiduciary? Has the public's trust. Also, all attorneys have a trust account because they hold money on behalf of clients. So they have a trust account just like we do. There's one more. Who's the third? Certified financial providers they are fiduciaries as well. Because they handle large amounts of money. They're supposed to put the client's interest before their interest, just like us, and just like an attorney. And they often have trust accounts as well because they're holding money for clients in between investments in between transactions. So we're in a very elite group as real estate agents, attorneys and certified financial planners. So it's not something to be taken lightly. Grounds for disciplinary action. The following acts are unlawful and grounds for disciplinary action for a person licensed or required to be licensed in this chapter. Article 15 of section 61 2F 401 says, breaching a fiduciary duty owned by a licensee to the licensee's principal in a real estate transaction. So if you breach your fiduciary duty to your client, that is grounds for disciplinary action. An individual licensee shall uphold the following fiduciary duties in the course of representing a principal. These are the 5 tenets that we pledge to our client, okay, when we're in a agency agreement, a non-dual or non-limited agency agreement. So the first is loyalty, which obligates the agent to place the best interests of the principal above their own interests, including the agent's own. So what is that saying in layman's terms? Don't put the commission first. Don't have commission breath. What'd you say, Don?
Just do what feels good.
Well, I don't know, that might be joking. I'm betting just may feel good to some people. But you know, it's follow the golden rule, you know, do unto others the way you'd want to be done unto. And you know, the legal aspect of that as well. So, you know, put their needs first. That means that you want to take care of them before you worry about your own commission or whatever the case may be. Obedience, which obligates the agent to obey any lawful instructions from the principal. There again, it says lawful instructions. Those of you that have been in business for a while, have you ever received an instruction from a client that has been unlawful? Bueller? Okay.
Yeah, I had a situation once where the paying out for the property or the income, they were caught in a lot of lines, and I knew that type of person what he wanted was not who I wanted to work with, and so I ended up actually just saying, hey, I'm not good for it.
Good. Yeah. Sometimes we're going to be asked to do stuff that just doesn't seem right, you know. I think it's the old thing of, you know, if your gut tells you that something's wrong, it's probably wrong. You know, do the old gut check. If you have any questions about that, check with Sean as to whether it's lawful or not. Often this comes into play when we're talking about seller disclosures. The seller knows that there's a latent defect in the property, but yet they ask us as agents to turn a blind eye or a blind ear to that and to not disclose that. And so sometimes you're going to be asked to do things that just aren't right. And you know, we need to stand strong on that. I've had that happen. I've walked away from transactions just like you did. And I've also told them that I wouldn't represent them if they wanted to do that. And they went ahead and disclosed the issue they were talking about. And we actually had a successful transaction. A lot of times they're just testing you. Keep that in mind. They're just testing you as an agent. Are you honest? They're going to ask you to do something or suggest to you something that's dishonest. And it's a check to see whether they want to do business with you because you agree to do something dishonest. I've had that happen.
I think sometimes too, it's not necessarily like you are the expert. Sometimes they don't know. Like I've had people ask me things like, oh, such and such leaked, but we fixed it. Do we still have to disclose it? Yes, I would just still disclose it and tell them what you did to fix it, right? But I think sometimes it's, yes, sometimes they are trying to be dishonest. Sometimes I think they don't know, you know?
Yeah.
Or I've had people that are like, something will come up in the inspection. They'll be like, oh my gosh, that was so long ago. I totally forgot about it, you know?
Yeah.
And nobody that I had a reason to believe was lying. There are a lot of people that I do believe are lying.
Yeah.
Dealing with that current situation right now with the seller. And they said they completely remodeled the whole house. We had our inspector go in there and the roof was gone, the water heater was gone. Not one of the outlets in the house had a grounding wire to them. 5 of the outlets didn't work. Then it tested positive for meth
Oh, wow.
and everything else. And then come to find out it was their tractors. Contractor was allowing his workers to smoke certain things,
Yeah.
and it came up positive for meth in the house, and they had to remediate the whole house before we even go under contract.
Yeah. If you're in business very long, you're gonna be exposed to this situation. I had a situation probably 10 years ago where I took a listing, it was in Kaysville. And when I went and inspected the property, the house sat probably 60 feet below the top of the backyard. The backyard was a hill, grass hill that just came right down to a patio, then right to the house. And I said to the seller, I said, have you ever had flooding in the basement? Oh, no, never had flooding in the basement. And so I went ahead and listed the house. And about 3 weeks later, a buyer contacted me and asked me to go show them the house. It had been raining for a couple of days. And that day I was trying to get a hold of the seller to arrange the showing. I called, I texted, I texted. And so I just decided to go ahead and go show the house. So we show up at the house and I use the key box key. I go in the house. We look at the top floor, then we go downstairs and there's my seller in the basement standing in water up to his knees with a shop vac. And he turned to me and said, what the hell are you doing here? And I said, what in the hell are you doing? You told me that the basement had never had water in it. Oh, it never had. So anyway, we left and I canceled the listing the next day. You just don't want to do business with people that do that. And that was a honest to gosh truth. So full disclosure, which obligates the agent to inform the principal of any material facts that the agent learns about the house to the other party or in the transaction. So we need to fully disclose everything we know about the property. Confidentiality, which prohibits the agent from disclosing without permission any information given to the agent by the principal that would likely weaken the principal's bargaining position if known, but accepting any known material fact. So in other words, they can't ask us to be confidential when it comes to some material defect in the property. But here's an example. I'd like to know how you guys handle this. I had this last week. Every transaction, I have a few listings, and every listing I had, we got offers from other agents. And the questions from the other agents were this. Do you have other offers? That was the first question. Okay. The other question was, do you have multiple offers on the property? Of those offers, are you representing any of the buyers on those other offers? Okay. So how do you guys handle that when you're asked those questions? Because that falls under D, that falls under confidentiality. Okay. So I actually called the legal hotline because I want to make sure that I just wanted to get my impressions on that confirmed as to what I could say and what I couldn't say for my client. And the conversation was very short, which I expected because I already knew the answer. But the answer that the legal hotline gave me, well, you can only disclose what your seller allows you to disclose. So with regard to those questions, you need to have a conversation with your seller. If I'm asked if I have other offers, what do I say? And they're probably going to say to you, well, what do you recommend? You're the expert. You tell me, how should I answer that question? So then you have to be prepared to answer that question. Same with, do I have multiple offers? Am I representing any of the buyers in that scenario? Those are all permissions that you need to get clarity on from your principal when you're a listing agent. Okay, because that's up to them, because the way you answer those questions could, like it says right there, affect your principal's negotiating position. Any questions on that?
if the seller or whatever leaves it up to you, how would?
That's a good question. I typically will disclose, that we have multiple offers. I don't think that,
The seller.
yeah. I think if anything, saying that you have multiple offers helps the seller because it shows that there's a high level of interest in the property, right? But as soon as you say that, now the next question comes, and that is, how many? How many offers do you have? And then the next question after that is, are any of them above asking? So once you answer one question, now it becomes a series of other questions because there, and the guy from the legal hotline said, well, sure, they're gonna ask, why not? What are they out to ask? And if you're willing to talk, then they just gained information that they otherwise wouldn't have. Okay, so it's up to you and your client. If the client leaves it up to you, I would make sure that I say to my client, well, here's my opinion. When it comes to, do we have any other offers? I think that's okay, because that helps your case. When it comes to how many offers do we have, I think that's none of their business, personally. Are any of the offers over list price?
Yes.
Yeah, the other thing is, do you have any cash offers? So you just have to go through those different scenarios with your client to determine what they're comfortable with. And a lot of times they're going to rely upon you as the expert. So if you haven't formed an opinion around those items, I think you need to, so that you can give them your opinion. Dalton, you look like you're puzzled.
I've always just had it verbally, but last 2 months I've thought about drafting something so it's written, because written's always better than verbal, but when we start, once we're listed and we start getting interest, first point I have to answer that question, I usually just go to the seller and say, hey, look, at this point, do you trust me enough to share information in a way that brings you the result that we both want? And they're like, yep, or no, or what do you mean, right? We go from there and we get on the same page. I'm like, do you want me to bring you every single question? And they're like, no, not really, we trust you. Okay, great. That being said, probably better to get that in writing from them, would you say?
Yeah.
I mean,
is that getting extreme?
Yeah. Go ahead. But we're on the same page.
we're on the same page
Yeah.
here. I mean, I think at some point, how are you gonna is it gonna be in an addendum? Is it gonna be in an email? Is it gonna be in a text? I think you're gonna know your client, but I think if it's someone that you're questioning, that they're gonna come back and say you didn't represent them appropriately, or you disclosed something you shouldn't, then maybe that warrants a quick email or text, which I know is not entered into the listing agreement, but really it's the listing agreements are
No,
clear
but
what it
it's a
says,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it's at least a little something to say, hey, just as we discussed, I've gotten these questions. It's my understanding I'm gonna be able to answer those based on me telling them these facts about the property or whatever.
Exactly. So I would agree with her.
I think that I deal with a client like that, have questions on what I can't divulge or what I can and can't, I usually get answered via email and save that email in a file.
Yep.
And that way you have your documentation.
Yeah.
If that's the client, where they give it the holder, I can answer an email, keep it in the file folder, in your computer, then when you get your documentation, you don't need signature.
Yeah. While we're talking about documentation of conversations, whether they're with your client or whether they're with another agent, in Command, so when you open your opportunity in Command, you have your documents on the right hand, right? That's where you load your documents. On the left-hand side, there's this square. And up at the top of the square, it says custom folders. So on the left-hand side of Command, under custom folders, you click on that and you can create a folder. And I do with every transaction, I create a folder that says communications. And then I take all my emails that I think I might want to reference down the road, all of my text messages that I want to keep track of that are conversations like this, and I put them in Command in that folder and save them there. Why? Because most lawsuits happen 2 years after the transaction's closed, and I want to make sure that I have those documents in the file all in the same place. And the other thing is that if the client files an action against you with the division or with the board of realtors, whether it's ethics or whether it's a judicial action against you, you're gonna wanna have those communications as part of your evidence as well. So if you're not utilizing that custom folder feature in Command, please use those. That's very important to save those communications, okay?
And just even further on that, especially if you're ever audited and that's been a habit that you've habitually documented everything. If they want to say, hey, what's this agent versus like, oh, that we just did this one time to try to cover their butt versus no, this is always like back in multiple offer days, like every time, whether it was a notice of cancellation or a notice of, you know, any type of other notices or to confirm that they received something that was a time sensitive. So there's no way I throw those emails in there as well. They timestamp that they got stuff. So again, just your history of being an agent and how you do business, that will help a ton sometimes if ever needed, that it's always documented for the past gazillion years. Not like, oh, you just did this one time on this one file to try to cover something that some agents, if they try to do it after, they are so screwed.
Yep, perfect. Thank you for sharing.
It's not in their history of how they've been as an agent.
Yeah, and the division, if the division and the ethics board are both going to ask you to send all of your communications with that. And there's actually some legislation that's being brought forward that may, if passed, require that all of your communications are saved in a part of the transaction. Do you have any opinion on that or any additional information on what I'm talking about there? About saving communications as part of the.
I don't, but I do know that they're gonna ask, like, that if you don't save it, they're gonna wanna know why, if there was something that, because, and here's the other thing, if you didn't save it and your client's suing you, I'm gonna bet they did. So it's better if you have it too. I mean, I would rather have you have, frankly, like when we go through this in the office, if somebody gets sued or whatever, I would rather you have more information versus less. I'd rather have you have too much communication, assuming that you did a good job.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the other bad part is, well, be aware of what you say and what you text and what you email, because every single thing you do can be subpoenaed.
Yep.
And so if you, disclosure is one of those big things, right? If they say, hey, the basement flooded 3 times, but we fixed the problem now, do I have to disclose it? And you no, that's no problem. You've got it taken care of. And now you're the person who told them they didn't need to disclose it and you're the professional. So I would be cautious on your communications. But I'd rather you have something documented. And again, this is where if there's a situation where something is not feeling right or you're concerned about how to talk, have a conversation, call Sean. Call me, like, let's get involved and have a conversation around it, because I'd rather us have a conversation in advance of a problem and try to get ahead of it.
Absolutely. My mother used to say that an ounce of prevention was worth a pound of cure. And yeah, everything's fixable in our business. We're not brain surgeons. Nobody's going to die on the table. But in order to fix things, sometimes it takes money, right? And sometimes lawsuits. And so let's avoid those. Problems don't get bigger if they don't get smaller if they're ignored and go away. They get bigger, they multiply. So, as far as Sean goes and myself and Russie, there's no such thing as a stupid question.
Just call us.
Just
I'd
call us.
much rather answer the question in advance than 6 months down the road when we're like, wait, what happened here? And you're like, oh, shoot.
This is a no judgment. zone.
Yeah, let's just have the conversation.
Yep.
I'd so much rather that.
Reasonable care and diligence. So you have to take care of your client in a reasonable way, and you have to be diligent with them. The biggest complaint we get in compliance from buyers is that their buyer's agent, is not responding to the requests. They're not going out and showing property. They're not making themselves available. They only want to show houses at a certain time. So make sure that you're being reasonable with them. Does that mean you have to answer to every request and go at every time they want you to go? No, it's reasonable. And it took me for a while to learn this. I'm kind of a slow learner, but instead of me saying, hey, what time do you want to go look at houses? And they always pick the worst time, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock on the weekend, Friday night. I say to them, hey, would you want to do that tomorrow at 3 o'clock or Thursday at 5 o'clock? Give them 2 choices that work for you. It's convenient for you. And they'll always pick one of them, so save yourself some grief and some hassle that way. Holding safe and accounting for monies and properties. be very, very careful with the earnest money, from the time that you receive it to the time it comes to the office. You're responsible for that money, and also property. Property meaning that you're gonna put a key box on a property. We prefer that you use a Supra box rather than a contractor's box, because that can be tracked. In a lot of cases, our E&O insurance, our liability insurance is dependent on the premium that they charge, is somewhat reflected by whether we use Supra boxes or not. Because they're more secure, they're trackable. We can find out who went in the house, how long they were in the house. So there's a lot of reasons why you want to do that. All right. And then lastly, any additional duties created through the agency agreement. So in the agency agreement, the seller, for example, could say that their expectation in the listing agreement is that you're going to hold an open house every other weekend, or something to that effect. They can add duties to your agreement that you sign that, you're agreeing to that. So you're liable to do those additional duties as agreed upon. Okay, so if you're not willing to do those, then negotiate, and don't do it if you're not willing to agree to it. All right. Let's see. All right, limited agency. Grounds for disciplinary action. The following acts are unlawful and grounds for disciplinary action for a person licensed or required to be licensed under this chapter. Acting for more than one party in a transaction without informed, I want to stress that word, informed written consent by both parties. Okay. So in today's world where we have .loop and DocuSign, one of the things that came up in that meeting when we were sitting there with the enforcement officers from the division was that we as realtors are not doing a good job of explaining our documents to our clients. That's why they added that word inform. What we're doing in the world of paperless documents is we're saying, okay, I'm going to send you over the buyer broker agreement. We email it over to them and we say what?
Better say what it is.
I say, let's hop on a Zoom if we're not in person. We'll go through this in detail.
Yeah, there you go. But my point is, here's what they said was the average conversation. Let me know if you have any questions. That's not fulfilling our fiduciary duty to our client. And that happens 9 times out of 10, that we send it over to them and we say, oh, let me know if you have any questions. They've never seen that document before. They don't understand agency to begin with. We do because we went to school, but they don't. They think that you're working for Keller Williams and Keller Williams is maybe paying you a salary, or you're getting a salary plus a commission. They don't understand often that you're 100% commission and that you don't get paid unless you sell them something. They don't understand that that's a legally binding document, although it says at the very top, caution, this is a legally binding document. But we need to explain it to them, and to the fact that, hey, I'm not going to let you out of this until it expires unless there's a very good reason. So set expectations with them as to how you're going to manage your agreements, because we as leadership, correct me if I'm wrong, but we as leadership are going to basically follow your instructions to your client, right? If you say you're going to let them out for certain reasons, then we're going to allow you to let them out for certain reasons. If you say, no, you can't get out of this agreement until it expires, then we're going to back you up on that. You're running your own business. You're an independent contractor. You're the boss of your business. And so when you set forward the parameters on those agreements, which are the keys to you making money in this business, and you have to come up with a business plan personally. How am I going to handle those situations when someone asks me to walk away from an agreement, or they're unhappy with my service? Sometimes it's justified, sometimes it's not. And often we can see through that, okay, when they call the office and want to talk about that. Question, comment?
I was gonna say, a lot of that falls on the brokerage that you're with. I run in personally of dealing with younger, newer agents and their brokerages don't follow up. They get the basic training out of Stringham or the community college or whatever.
Right.
But their brokerages aren't giving them the details as for you need to do this and you need to tell people this. A lot of these people are coming into my last 3 transactions. I've had to help educate the selling agent or whatever that this is what needs to happen. Well, nobody told me that. Nobody, whatever. And so I've had to coach them through this just to get the deal done.
Yeah.
A lot of it's falling on the brokerages. They're not following up on the training from.
Yeah, it is. And that's the way it's set up. The real estate division will tell you, we teach you enough, hopefully to keep you out of jail. It's up to your broker to teach you everything else. This is the only profession that you can get your license with when day one, you can't do your job. Could any of you write a rep C day one? No.
I mean, we tried.
Yeah, we tried.
How did that go for you, Jim?
It was like trying to cheat back in school. And I'm like, what did you put on your paper?
Hopefully they got it right. So my point in saying that is that, it is up to your broker. Lean on us if you still need help. There's stuff that I've been in business 35 years, since 1991. And there's still stuff that I learn every week. I think you're foolish if you think that you know everything there is to know about real estate. It's just not possible. No two clients are the same. No 2 transactions are the same. So therefore it requires ingenuity, adapting, and flexibility with each transaction, okay? So the way you get sued or get disciplinary action taken against you is to act for more than one party in a transaction without informed written consent. So we have a form called limited agency. It's a document that both the buyer and the seller have to sign. It is very, very important that you go through that document word for word with both your buyer and your seller. Explain to them what the document means, explain to them some real world scenarios. I tell them when I'm going through it, hey, Mr. Seller, the reason why I'm explaining this to you is because the buyer might ask me, hey, what's the least that the seller is willing to accept for the house? Fair question. I'd probably ask it too, but I'm not going to answer it because that's going to compromise my seller's position. I'm going to say, you know what, that's a great question, but just like if the seller said to me, what's the most that the buyer is willing to pay for the house? How do you like that question? You gonna tell me that? No, you're not. So I have to honor both of you. I have to be a neutral party. So I'm not going to tell them what you're willing to pay for the house. And I can't tell you what they're willing to sell the house for. That's something that we're going to negotiate through back and forth. And I'll be here to help you and guide you, but I can't give you that answer. So I can't give you information or them information that's going to hurt one of your negotiating positions. When you do it that way, they usually understand. I did have one guy that said, I'm not going to use you then. And I said, great. I don't want to do business with you either, because you're trying to take advantage of a seller, and I'm not going to be a participant in that. There was a comment or a question.
I did previously, just back to though, if a buyer or a seller though is ever gonna have a complaint or turn you in, just thinking about that again, that's your history of if you can only ever show text, email, whatever, that all you said was, let me know if you have any questions. You literally did not do your job in explaining anything, and that is like leaving yourself wide open. There are people that haven't realized that you need to educate them. That is your job. Your history is only saying, oh, sign, sign, sign. Let me know if you have questions. That's like taking advantage of them.
Good, thank you. Hey, guys, it's been an hour, and we've got Ibex here to provide lunch for us and to tell us about their awesome business. So we're going to turn the time over to Christine.
How we all doing? Too much education, right? That's the hard part about it.
I love the shirt.
Dang, you like my little goatee?
I love it.
So anybody here, and don't be shy, anybody here not know who Ibex Home Warranty is?
Who?
Yeah, right. You too. So that. Well, that made it easy, so I guess I don't gotta tell you too much. Food. Let me tell you about the food real quick. So I did a hug test. I always forget to say this. So the bottles of vinaigrette are for the pasta, or you can put it on the salad And then there's also salad dressing. Everybody asks me after they go start eating, so I'm like, let me just get it.
It's not already mixed in.
Yes, because it's not already mixed in.
Thank
Okay, so let me just tell you a couple key things about IBEX and then go fill your bellies with yum yum. Who's here ready to turn on AC units because it's going to be warm outside? Even though December decided to come today. We all want to turn our ACs on, right? Unless you love winter. Okay, so you turn on that AC and it blows warm air. Pretty disappointing, right? And us women, when we're trying to put our makeup on, it's like sweating off, and then we have to reapply, sweating off, reapply.
And we have to listen to you complain about it.
Yes, you do, 100%. So see, this is why you want to be the man.
That's why I'm listening.
Take charge and get a home warranty through IBEX because Freon is covered in AC units. So that's one of the differences between us and other home warranty companies. And we have no limit. So most units take up to 8 pounds of Freon, and we don't have a limit on how much we put in there. So that's a big benefit for you guys. And Freon's very, very expensive. That's why we decided to cover it. Because a lot of companies don't cover it, and it's about $400 for 1 pound. So you add that up, and it's pretty spendy when you got Freon in your AC unit. Let's see. I'm trying to think of if you guys already know everything. I don't know what we're local. I live in Ogden. All of us owners live here in Utah. We only cover Utah. I'm really sorry for you that cover like Arizona and Idaho. I apologize about that. We do Utah County all the way to Cache Valley. Another big difference between us and other home warranty companies is our contractor only works for us. So on those contractors only working for us, what is the benefit? Somebody yell it out, you get a prize.
They're available, no competition.
Scheduling's easier, okay, just like IBEX Snickers really satisfied, you get a Snicker bar. So yes, so the biggest thing about the contractors only working for us is our turnaround time. So we can get contractors out there really quick to get the jobs done, which makes your clients happy. And if your client's happy, then you guys are happy. And then if you're happy, you're gonna send us more deals, right? Okay. Other than that, we have one plan. We don't do multiple options for this price, that price, add this for $150. Too confusing, way too much for the buyer. They're already confused enough with all the documents you've made them sign. Then on top of that, the closing sign for an hour or half an hour. So we made it easy. One plan, everybody gets the same exact coverage, all 6 major components that we cover. And the biggest thing that is different from us from any other home warranty company, local or national, we got rid of fine print exclusions. So fine print exclusions are just like on page 1 of, or section 1.1 of the Rep C, and it says what's not included with the home. Well, every home warranty company has that. So they say we cover the dryer, but then when you read the fine print, it says we don't cover the drum, we don't cover the belt, we don't cover the heating element, we don't cover the lint catcher. So it's like, well, what's covered? And that's where your buyers get frustrated because every time they call in, they get denied because it's not covered. So we got rid of exclusions. So that's why your clients get more coverage for the money. Other than that, that's it. If you have any questions for me while you're standing in line, I have more prizes. And next time you guys are writing up that Rep C in section 10, make sure you go with IBEX home.
I hear them hanging down. How are you?
Okay, so I think that's something crazy. Yeah, last year, actually, because they're thinking of like. You already got I don't think yeah, no, we have a lot next to it. Way better than yeah, next to it. Yeah.
You can kind of like, but. Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah. I got a hand. Explore Florida. You're gonna get some. I know better now.
I got like my room that I see myself.
I don't, well, actually,
Oh, no, you're right. Good news. And then I. But, you're.
Yeah. That's the lower end of the tank. Yeah. So like middle. Yep. So there was some. But I think we already are guided to. I got. Yeah. That sounds like it. It's like what percent? Yeah. We got it. And I'm just remembering, not, she is number one, and it's not better than our neighbor. I have one. Yeah. Like this, but yeah.
I have seen this one.
Your boy with it. They may use it. Everybody get something to eat. Hey, make sure you sign the roll. There's a lot of you here and only 7 people signed the roll. This is how you get credit for the class. Flip the page. Oh, is there another page?
You might have one. It should be.
Oh, we skipped. All right, okay. Anybody else needed? Okay.
So we're good.
All right. Any questions, any rebuttals, any comments?
No, I think you did a good job.
Thank you. All right, so we're gonna have a little trivia contest right now. And there are prizes involved, courtesy of Ibex Home Warranty. So by the raise of hand, so just don't blurt out the answer, but by the raise of hand, who knows all of the national parks located in the state of Utah?
Yeah, right.
There's 5.
I might, maybe.
Okay, take a stab.
Golden Spike.
Nope.
Oh, psych.
We're talking national, not state. That's a state.
Oh, that's a state.
I see people counting on their fingers. You getting close to 5?
Bryce, Arches.
Yep.
Canyon.
Yep.
Zion.
Yep.
Canyon Lemon said.
Okay.
No, so
One more.
Bryce, Zion, Canyon Lands. Capital Reef. Yeah, that would be one.
Capital Reef. $25 gift certificate of Napa. Capital Reef National Park. How many of you have been to one of those? Absolutely gorgeous. What a treasure we have in the state of Utah. All right, here's another question. Okay, we're here in Davis County, right? So my question to you is, how wide and how long is Davis County in miles? How many miles wide and how many miles?
15 by 25.
What?
It's like Davis County. How many miles long is Davis County? And how many miles? What's your guess?
I have no idea.
That's not the answer.
30 miles
was right.
long.
What was right?
See, you guys? 25 by 50.
You missed 100% of the guesses you don't make, right, Justin?
Not one other person.
I'm proud of you.
I-
It should go to him.
Anyone else?
30 by 100.
You guys are really high. Really
Yeah,
high.
like
Oh,
20 by
Only like 20 by 50.
25 by 40.
Okay, so Davis County is the most narrow county in the state of Utah.
10 by 5.
Nope.
Dan,
No, you guys aren't even close.
This just tells the answer.
Hey, I'm trying. Give up. So Davis County is the narrowest county in the state. It's also typically the smallest county. And the reason being is that Davis County is limited on the east by the National Forest Service. So halfway up the hill, you hit National Forest Service. And on the west, you hit the Great Salt Lake and the marsh of the Great Salt Lake. So Davis County is 1 mile wide and 15 miles long.
1 mile.
1 mile wide,
Justin was the
and
closest.
15 miles long.
And I laughed.
Okay, this is
1 mile wide.
1 mile wide.
Wait,
That's what the books say. Okay. Here's our last trivia question. There's no way for 1 mile wide. Okay, fine. Do your research. And we'll talk about it. We'll come back. Now it's not the time to debate it. All right, so
Housing availability or the actual county?
size of it. Miles wide, miles.
All right, squirrels.
Which county in Utah has historically been the fastest growing county in the country? In the country. Raise your hand. You have a. Utah County. Yep. Utah County. $25 gift card. Ma'am. Okay.
At 15 of that, like 15 months.
That looks awesome because even if you have an electric car, you can still get treats. Thank you. Get your soft drink, your cinnamon bun, your pizza, whatever it is. All right, let's get back to affirmative duties, talking about limited agency. So you need to clearly explain in writing to both parties. And you need to talk about the type of information that's held confidentially, which we touched on. The type of information that will be disclosed and can be disclosed. The circumstances under which withholding information could constitute a material misrepresentation. We've talked about that as well. Typically, the condition of the home and misrepresenting the condition of the home. Okay. Obtaining written acknowledgement from each party. So you've got to have the limited agency agreement signed in advance by both parties and explained to them. And they're waiving undivided loyalty, absolute confidentiality, and full disclosure from the licensee. Obtaining a written acknowledgement from each party affirming that each party understands the licensee will act as a neutral capacity or a neutral party to advance the interests of each party. So unlike our standard operating agreements, we pledge loyalty, confidentiality, all of that. With limited agency, the best you can do is neutrality. That's what you're pledging, because you're going to be neutral in the transaction. Okay. You act as a neutral third party. You uphold the following fiduciary duties to both parties. You can still be obedient, which obligates the limited agent to obey lawful instructions of the parties as long as they don't compromise one person's interests. You can also pledge reasonable care, diligence. You can hold safe the earnest money and their property and any additional duties created by the agency agreement as long as they don't violate confidentiality. Okay. All right. It's so limited agency is prohibited, which means it can't be done at all. And the most common infraction on this is that if you have your own house listed and you're the seller, you can't represent the buyer through limited agency. Okay.
Please tell me everyone already knew that.
Wait, I didn't know that. Can you repeat that for a second?
So when I was first licensed, we had a situation at Wardley Better Homes and Gardens where an agent listed their house and represented himself and the buyer as a limited agent and ended up getting sued.
Okay.
And I think he ended up losing about $100,000 because of it.
Good for him. No, my question is, can you do non-represented buyer?
Yes.
If you are selling as a listing agent, your own home?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I might make a suggestion though.
Yeah. You and I are still on the same
We
page
are
today.
in sync today.
Yeah, it's,
Suggestion might be that perhaps you go ahead and refer them to an agent that you know well, because you know then they're gonna get taken care of. And it really just eliminates everything great. But yes, they can be an unrepresented client. But you just, man, I would watch those lines so closely of representation. I would make sure you don't even tiptoe towards the line of representation. So them having someone else representing them is gonna make it much easier for you in the long run.
That's what we did on our flip. I just called Chris.
Yeah, call someone and say, hey, take my buyer for me. Yeah,
yeah, and you can do it as a discounted commission, you can get a referral fee.
Yeah.
There's nothing against that. So referring to someone else, you have to keep in mind, guys, that if this goes south, it's gonna go to court. And is a judge gonna look at you differently if you're doing unrepresented rather than
absolutely.
there's an adage that's called, there's the letter of the law. And in that scenario of being unrepresented, yes, that fits the letter of the law. Legally, you can do that. And then there's the spirit of the law, and the spirit of this law or this rule is, we don't want you being involved with the buyer when you're a principal. There is no way on this earth you can be impartial because of the money involved. Okay, there's so much at risk. So that's my opinion anyway. That and $2 you can buy a soft drink. But I just think I would avoid.
I just needed to ask one question. That was my goal for the day.
Oh, okay. Well, that was a good. Yeah, you did. That's a good.
That was a good question.
Yeah. Because it does happen, just like in the case of that other agent, people just don't know. They get greedy, they look at dollars rather than looking at the legality of the deal. And then also, if you are a director, a partner, a member, or a stockholder of a company, you can't be a limited agent as well. So if you're part of an LLC, trust, an S corp, and you're listing a property, you can't be a limited agent either.
I do want to say there was just one big fine on that. You go back one slide, but I think it was a property management company. So just make sure you just disclose and over disclose. There was a lady that was an owner in an entity that she was property managing several companies. This was, I don't remember exactly where. This might have been somewhere like Bernalish area. But anyway, she was an owner in not only the brokerage that was the property management company, but she was also an owner in the maintenance company that did all of the maintenance for the units and all of the cleaning for the units, and none of that was disclosed. And she just got a really hefty fine because some of the owners felt like she was misrepresenting them. And it was a big fine because she had not disclosed that she was an owner in the entity and was representing them and not disclosing that she owned the management or the maintenance companies. So a little different way to think about it, but you really do have a duty to disclose.
Yeah, disclose. I mean, it's better to be safe than sorry, right?
Are you gonna cover the subject of disclose of interest if we own the property? Are you gonna cover that now or no?
Yeah. I don't know.
Like if you're the owner of the property, you have to disclose it.
yeah.
Yeah. You should say owner agent, right, in your listing.
Yeah,
You have to have an addendum stating you're the owner agent.
Yep.
Yeah,
yeah.
Any ownership or?
any ownership must be disclosed.
Yeah. I think
So if Ken and I own a property together and I own 2% of it and Ken owns 98% of it and I list it, I still must disclose I'm an owner agent. I must disclose it and it must be in an addendum because I own a portion of the property. Therefore, I have a different interest in the property than I would if it was just, if I'm just listing Angela's property, I'm still gonna care, but I care a little bit more because it's mine.
Yeah, question back there.
What about family members? And how close of a family relationship?
I just looked at it.
So I think that kind of comes back to
Well,
disclose.
it's not disclosing, but whether or not you can do limited agents.
Well, if it's-
You can do
if
limited
it's-
agents.
if it's your
Yeah,
brother,
it's family.
it's
What's
your
that?
brother.
If it's family, you can do limited agents.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just not anywhere else. I may have commented.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so my other concern about limited agency, people don't keep in mind that if you are doing a deal with another agent from the same company, there's the same limited agency consent agreement representing, or acknowledging each agent representing the buyer, and one's representing the seller. So,
It's called an
Correct.
in-house sell.
correct, but the only thing I never knew for 30 years, actually 33, was that if in that case, because with earnest money to trust account, I do not, like, I put that right in my listings, they're not, they have to be in buyer or seller's brokerage, because the earnest money isn't released if there's blatant default unless there's an agreement by both parties. What I also never knew is that if it's an in-house transaction limited agency and there's a dispute over earnest money, even with blatant default, our office will not release that. And that is still an issue for 33 years I never dealt with, and I'm still dealing with that. And so if a deal looks like it could be going swiggly, be extremely wary, because then you don't end up in a situation like mine after 33 years that you didn't know that it was not going to be released for blatant default, and that's a whole nother shit.
But on the same token, though, if you held it with a title company, they're not gonna release it without
Which is
mutual
why-
consent.
So this is the same as that, was like, oh shit, knowing after the fact, so not fun.
Yeah, anytime that there's a dispute between the two parties and potentially litigation, the brokerage is gonna hold on to the earnest money until it's resolved. It's just the way it is. It's just, it's a liability limitation factor. So any brokerage would do that. Title companies won't release it regardless without mutual consent. So you're better to have it listed at the brokerage than you would with a title company, in my opinion. But, yeah, disputes are ugly. Anything else on limited agency? Okay. Rep C, we're gonna talk about the Rep C. Don't we love section 4.3 of the new Rep C? Yeah, yeah.
Actually, I think it's so much more clear.
So let me ask you a question, and this is just purely for interest's sake. But it seems as though to me that since this has taken place, on my listings, I don't get any phone calls from you all asking me what commission my seller's paying. Is that just coincidence, or are we not checking on the commission anymore?
I think that died, shortly after, I think right after it came out. All the calls I got were before the show that they wanted us to know the commission. And then as things progressed,
It doesn't matter anymore. Viewpoint.
Yeah.
So stats on that are actually out, that the average BAC is now higher than it was before the thing.
Yeah, it's actually helped us, hasn't it?
It's helped us.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, what we all perceived as a negative has actually turned out to be a positive.
Wait, you guys are getting.
To a certain extent.
The average agent is.
Yeah.
There's no fixed or
Yes.
commission anywhere in real estate. It's all negotiable. So there's no averages or what the average agent's getting. It's all
Yeah,
negotiable.
we
As a
didn't say a
reminder.
magic number.
Yeah.
Oh, I would
We-
never say the average.
We just said that it's benefited us, and I think it probably has. So it's a good thing. So let's look at this real quickly. I'm sure we're all intimately aware of it. So real estate brokerage commission, buyer and seller agree that the sellers contribute percentage to the purchase price of the buyer's brokerage or blank dollars to the brokerage if applicable. Sellers contribute compensation contribution if no amount is entered. So this is the key, guys. If no amount is entered, then the seller has not agreed to compensate the buyer's brokerage in the Rep C. So if you leave this blank, you're not getting paid, okay? Now, early on, right after the NAR settlement, they came out with the commission agreement. Remember that? They had the commission agreement. They wanted all of us to fill out, saying the seller was going to pay the buyer X dollars of commission. And that's because at that time, we didn't have 4.3 in the Rep C. Back then, putting commission in the Rep C was an ethics violation. You couldn't do it. So they came out with that form. But here's what happened in the real world is that agents get that compensation form filled out, which is the separate document saying the seller's going to pay X percentage of commission to the buyer's agent. Then they're filling out the Rep C and they're putting the same amount in section 4.3. What's the problem with that? Yeah, so for example, if they put 2.5%.
Why is that a problem if you pay for it?
If it's you, it's not a problem. If it's the listing agent or the seller, it is a problem. So we don't see that so much now, but that really was a big issue, is that basically you need to keep in mind that any commission put here is in addition to any other commission that's agreed to somewhere else in writing. Okay. So if for some reason you have that commission agreement that says that the seller's going to pay the buyer's agent 2%, and you think you're being repetitive and guaranteeing that you're going to get paid 2.5% and put it in the REPC, the seller is now paying 5%. Because those are two separate legally binding documents. Okay, so don't obligate your seller through two legally binding documents, one of being the REPC, to pay a commission. Is that clear?
Has anyone seen that?
It happened a lot in the beginning.
Yeah, in the beginning, not so much now because it's in the REPC and we're training on it differently, but initially, yes. Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
I don't think anybody's really using that form anymore. And in fact, I was just gonna check, because I think they got rid of it even off of the MLS. I don't even think it exists anymore.
Because it was a nightmare. It's not.
You're gonna talk about the or.
Or,
Yeah,
This one
there
doesn't say
there were
or.
already disputes where people were trying to not put in 0. Thinking that you're filling out both spots because it is now in 4.
So, well, they should just read Sherry.
You come back to the- So
Sorry.
let's just say we're gonna put 3%.
and you're representing who? You're representing the buyer or the seller? Doesn't even matter. Go ahead.
So it's gonna contribute 3% of the purchase price to the buyers. For 0 or any.
Or you can just leave that blank because it's an or question.
It's or,
Oh, I thought you just said never leave that.
so.
That's on the
Don't
listing.
leave, you have to fill out one or the
You
other.
have to fill-
Okay, I thought, yeah.
So it's different in the listing agreement, in the buyer broker agreement. It says and in those agreements, so you're adding a dollar amount to the percentage because some of us charge transaction fees or charge whatever. So it's and, it's a percentage plus a dollar amount. Here, it's not, it's just either or it's a percentage or a fixed dollar amount, because sometimes a seller doesn't pay a percentage. They say, oh, I'm just gonna pay, $5,000 regardless what the purchase price is. So in that case, you'd leave the percentage blank and put $5,000 in the dollar amount.
I have seen agents, if that's their business plan, like I have seen just a flat fee there instead of a percentage. And I asked them, I was like, oh, interesting, tell me about that. And it's just, that was their business plan. That's what they figured they needed to make for transaction that they represented on buyers.
That's fine, except then it's been disputed where someone's getting out where it had put in the percentage or the 0. So then they were opting for the 0, so that's already been litigated. Which is why you need to leave that blank.
Yeah, the precedence has already been set. Okay. Any other questions on section 4.3? Is that clear as mud? Okay. So don't double obligate your client, put the commission here and here only. And then everything will be good. All right. Let's go over these questions. So here's one of the questions. So what is the default status of the seller's obligation to compensate on if the compensation line is left blank? So the answer is if no amount is entered into a percentage or a flat amount, the seller has not agreed to compensate the buyer's brokerage. So if both of those are blank, there's no commission. Okay. What serves as a ceiling or maximum limit for compensation that the buyer's brokerage can receive? Right? What serves as a ceiling or a maximum limit for compensation on the buyer broker agreement?
There was on the buyer broker.
Yeah, the amount that's on the buyer broker. Those two should match. Your buyer broker agreement should match the amount on paragraph 4.3.
I got a question that Ken,
Uh-huh.
if I make a buyer broker at 4 and I finally get a listing now with a 2%, I can still put 2%.
Say that again, I didn't catch
So
that.
if I take a buyer broker agreement at 4%, we've been looking for 3 months, and I decided to take only 2% on this listing, I can do that.
Yes.
And I waive the 2% for my buyer.
Yep.
So
So
I have
just,
to have that in writing afterwards.
so
or-
just do an addendum, buyer broker agreement, reducing the commission to 2%. Now, don't do that too early.
Right.
Don't do that too early. Do it at closing or the day of closing, because who knows, maybe that contract will fall through. And then you'll have another one that might be at 3%. And we don't want a bunch of addendums that are yo-yoing the commission, because the DOJ would not take
Do
kind.
you, do you have to do a buyer, addendum on that or not?
Yes.
Just wait.
Yes. Yeah, do an addendum, silly man. That's the guidelines. That's the guidelines from the DOJ.
That's, can you put in there like for that specific property? To make it easy?
You can, but what I wouldn't want, again, I mean, I always just think like, am I audit proof? What I wouldn't want to do is have 4 addendums with all different commission rates. Because what am I really charging?
All different addresses.
Yeah, with all different
commission
addresses,
rates.
different commission rates, like what am I actually charging for my services? Because it should be that this is what you charge for your services, regardless of who pays it. This is what you charge. So if you have, on this property, I'm gonna do this, and on this property, I'm gonna do this, and on this property, I'm just gonna get paid with pool parties. Like, I don't know what you're gonna do, but like, I would suggest it.
So,
Build, Rusty, like if you go throw a new build and they're in contract and the builder is offering you 4%, and they would say, I'm gonna increase it, I'm gonna addendum, but I'm gonna specify this address because they're offering this.
Yeah, you could.
Maybe not use for every property.
You could do that. I would just, what the division has said on that, and this is not like a rule, but what they have said is you better be able to show where there was increased agent, there was increased service on your end to show it, right? But I think you have actually a good argument for new construction, like, yeah, I babysat the new construction for 12 months or 8 months or whatever.
Yeah.
But you have, like, I would just be careful of how you're gonna show that.
There are builders
Yeah.
out there offering that now.
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah, I did that this last week. I raised commission on one of my listings. When I took the listing in August, it wasn't a short sale. As soon as I took the listing, my clients stopped making their payment, and now it's a short sale. Okay, we're what, 6 months down the road? And so we're now under contract, and I did an addendum to my listing agreement saying that because of the duration of the listing, because of the work of interfacing with the bank and the seller, and the additional paperwork required, and the time required that we've been on the market for over 180 days, that my commission went to X. I'm good with that. I think that's audit proof. That's audit proof.
You try to an email.
No, it's in the listing. Yeah, you have to. What she's saying is, if you're gonna raise the commission, you need to justify why you're raising the commission. Because if the DOJ audits that file, which they are, they're auditing files, you gotta be able to articulate why you're worth more commission. In my case, it was time, energy. I mean, I've submitted how many CMAs, how many HUD-1 statements, how many offers. I mean, it's been horrendous. And so to me, that justifies a higher commission. And so, Kaylee,
Sometimes the bank will push you back and say, oh, we're only willing to do X,
they might,
right?
they might. You know, and where it's a short sale, I can't look to the seller for the additional commission, but I can at least try,
Yeah.
you know.
So I would say though that you're probably mixing bananas and pineapples, because for you to increase a commission on a seller, you can do that all day, any day, whatever you want. That was never an issue. That was never any part of the lawsuit. The second any buyer agent raises the commission, you have opened yourself up for massive liability. That was the whole point of the commission lawsuits. So we all know new construction, you can start at 5 or 6% and say, hey, if you do new construction, I may take as much as 6. You can always come down.
Yeah.
Second you go up later, you're opening yourself up. So put it in every single one, like Luke's saying, like if they're all at 4, they're all at 5, if it's new construction, and then you can reduce whatever you want anytime. That is a serious liability if you're opening yourself up, if you're raising it at any time with a buyer agent. That was the whole point.
So
of the
start with your ceiling. That's what I would say. Start with your ceiling. Put your ceiling down as the commission, and then just tell them, say, hey, based on where we end up ultimately, we're gonna readdress this. Okay.
Start with your ceiling, assuming you actually have an intention to charge that. Because if you also, I mean, there's so much that goes into this, and I think we're like way in the rabbit hole on it. But if you guys remember when this first happened too, the other thing they said is like, because everyone just said that, oh, I'll just put 10% every agreement then. If you're never gonna charge that, you're gonna have the exact same scrutiny that they're gonna go, well, why are you saying you're gonna charge that if you never actually charge it? So yes, I agree, but be prepared that this is something you would actually charge the buyer. Has anyone actually charged a buyer for commission? Because I have. Right? And so I am able to explain why I'm doing that, right? This was my value. We talked about it up front. This is what I charge. This is what the seller, like, good news is the seller's paying X amount for you. And then this is what it looks like. Do I do it often? No. But are there times that absolutely I'm going to? Yes. So I think that's great, as long as whatever you have in your agency agreement, you are prepared to charge that. And you have been very clear with your buyer that you are going to charge that. Because if you say to them, oh, I'm putting 10%, but I'm just going to take whatever the seller will pay me, now you have a problem.
Yeah.
Especially if that's how you.
So that answers the third question. Can the buyer's brokerage receive payments from multiple sources under this section? And they can. The seller can pay part of the commission, the buyer can pay part of the commission. So yes, it can come from multiple sources. Does the obligation regarding these compensation provisions end when the transaction closes? No, it does not. Section 4.3 of the contract survives closing. Why? Because so many lawsuits come up relative to commission. So that section has to survive closing so it can be litigated. Okay. All right, earnest money. Section 1 of the REPC, client must deliver earnest money within 4 calendar days, not business days. If agent receives earnest money, they should deliver it to the brokerage at the earliest opportunity. Here you can even drop your earnest money off to us on the weekend by putting it in the deposit box there at Bradley's desk. There's that gray box that you can put it in. So there's no reason to hold on to earnest money through the weekend. Then it becomes our responsibility once you've left it.
Better yet, use earnest.
Yeah, use earnest. How many of you use earnest? Yeah. Awesome, isn't it? Yeah, love it. All right, let's see here. Agent broker cannot misrepresent when or if the earnest money was received. So you've got to report that honestly. Broker must deposit earnest money to the brokerage account within 4 calendar days of receiving it. So you guys have 4 days to get it to the brokerage, and the brokerage has 4 days to get it deposited into the trust account. Okay, for a total of 8 days. But it can't be, oh, well, I'm going to take 6 days to get you the check, and then you guys have 2 days to deposit it. That doesn't work. If the earnest money is late, if it arrives after 4 days, 4 calendar days to the brokerage, then what's happened to your buyer? They defaulted. Okay. And there's consequences for that. What it means is that the contract is now cancelable, not canceled, cancelable by the seller. Then keep the earnest money. So very important. Can you correct that? Can you correct that it was late? Absolutely. Just do an addendum to the REPC saying that the buyer's earnest money was not received until such and such date, and that both buyer and seller acknowledge that and are willing to move forward to closing. Okay, so that fixes it. That means that we've notified, we have consent to move forward even though it was late, and so that corrects that problem.
Technically, you'd want to have that before it was late though, because once you send that over, that's a loophole of the seller being able to get out.
Yeah.
You can still have it after, as long as the seller.
As long as they sign it,
And they're-
it fixes it. It
But
fixes
you
the
still
gap.
want to try to before.
Yeah, you can try it.
And then you would offer, and guess what? We're gonna go with a higher offer.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we need to use the state approved form. That's the earnest money deposit confirmation. Okay, to communicate that. All right, use of addendas. Time clause and resolution of due diligence addendums. Those are documents that we're seeing all the time. A lot of people have a house to sell. And so the seller comes back with a time clause addendum. Is there any questions on the time clause addendum on how that works? Are all of you using the due diligence resolution addendum? or are you just crafting your own addendum for
Most repairs.
resolution? I like the resolution addendum because it has other language in it, talks about whether due diligence is waived or not. You can have multiple resolution, it can be financial, it can be having the seller do certain repairs to the property, those kinds of things. And so I like that addendum. I think it was crafted pretty well. Crafting non-standard escalation agreements, we don't see that a ton nowadays. I did receive one over the weekend, which I thought was kind of weird. But be careful with that. Our recommendation is that if you feel like you need to do an escalation clause, please get with Sean on the language on that. There's a lot of problems with the escalation clause. Agents fail to put the ceiling or the floor in the agreement, and so that leaves them wide open. And so it's very important to have certain language in that agreement that will protect your buyer on the maximum that they'll pay and also on the minimum. Okay, so if you feel inclined, don't craft your own. There's Sean has escalation documents that have been vetted. Mhm.
Okay, I guess it's embarrassing. I don't really use resolution of due diligence addendum.
It's not embarrassing. I mean, if you crafted your own, it's.
No, I just go with, if let's say after the home inspection, we agree for a price reduction, we're just gonna do an addendum to see purchase price to be. But I don't think I'm even familiar with this addendum at all.
Yeah, so if you typically do a price reduction, there's not so much a need for that document. Because the price reduction is the cure for the resolution of due diligence. Whereas if you're asking the seller to make repairs, the document goes on to say, well, what if they don't make the repairs? What if they don't make the repairs in the satisfaction of the buyer? Does the buyer still waive their due diligence period?
Because
And how are we gonna treat that if they don't? So it's much more crucial to use that document if there are gonna be repairs made.
But it does also have it for closing cost and reduction of price. To me, this is the document. I don't know why we're not using it.
Yeah.
Right, and that's gonna be Sean's opinion too.
Okay, so no, we'll I'll obviously read into
Yeah.
it and do it more, but I was always scared that I think it would put it like a flag to the lender. Am I wrong to think this way?
No, I mean, I think it's different if they're not, here's my advice on all due diligence, negotiations. Number one, I would not, like I've had, and I know you guys have all been on the other side of this. I've had an agent that sent me an addendum with like 25 things in it.
Yeah.
There's no way we're gonna do that, so don't send it. So in my opinion, you should do some pre-negotiation and conversation first. If you've come to terms, I've never had a lender push back on this. Now, if there's repairs to be made by the seller, yeah, the lender's gonna wanna know that they're done, and you're gonna have to show someone proof of that being done. You can do that through invoices, because the other thing in the repairs by the seller, it says, completed repairs, blah, 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 it says, otherwise agreed to in writing, the seller shall through contractors complete the repairs to comply with applicable law, including government permit, inspection, and approval requirements. All repairs performed in a workmanlike manner with the materials and quality of the appearance and comparable to existing materials. So if you are doing repairs and it's a due diligence situation and you have 3 repairs listed in here, this is saying, was it done with a contractor with the correct permits pulled, and you have a little, and this says this does survive closing too, right? So you have something to go back on if you go there and it's like, no, this wasn't done with the same quality or craftsmanship, or they didn't pull a permit, right? They didn't get the proper documentation or whatever. I've never had a lender push back on something for closing costs or price reduction. On the repairs, I have had them say, we need proof of repairs. And I've been able to provide that easy enough with, here's the invoices.
Yeah, this is actually better because it says it's not gonna be a DIY project. The seller's not gonna do it themselves. It should be done by a contractor. It's gonna be licensed. It's, they're gonna get the necessary permit. And so those are all protections for the buyer. So it really is a great document.
Thank you. No,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Hang on one sec. So the only time that I've ever seen a pushback, like I said, I've been in business 35 years. The only time I've ever seen a pushback on an addendum from the underwriter is if, like Rusty said, if you get an addendum with 25 items on it, and then you do a subsequent addendum saying that your seller is going to take care of 2 of those or 5 of those, that's when it's a problem, because then the underwriter goes, oh my gosh. Look at the repairs that needed to be done. Those weren't agreed to. So now the house is gonna either be not of value or it's gonna be unsafe because the repairs weren't done. So we're not gonna lend money on it. Never have I seen a lender balk at an addendum where the seller has agreed to do all of the repairs. And especially if repairs were done by a contract.
So the more important niche. The more important factor, especially I think for if you're representing a seller, is because the whole point of the resolution of due diligence though is whether you do closing costs or easy, simple, quick reduction in price. The easiest, best way to close due diligence is that due diligence addendum, even just by saying the new purchase price is X or a seller will pay X in closing costs, because then at the bottom, you are done with due diligence.
Yeah.
If I'm representing my seller and if you have, because we could have other buyers that want to buy that home. If I'm writing it for a buyer, I want to keep the best loopholes open for my buyer. But if I'm representing a seller, you want that due diligence closed with that sole remedy of reduction in price or closing costs, because otherwise they can nitpick for 2 more weeks or back out for no reason or any reason, and you're screwed again, versus they are acknowledging they're done with due diligence upon your seller's acceptance of that addendum. Whether I draft it for my seller or the buyer, I'll say, hey, do you want me to do that addendum for you? No problem, I'll send it over. Because if you're not doing that, you're screwing your seller and not closing out due diligence immediately with that sole remedy.
Thank you.
Obviously, it depends on how the buyer wants to handle it, right? Do they want repairs done or?
Right.
They
And
okay
saying, if
taking-
whoever's the buyer, every opportunity open and not close it out. If I'm working for a seller though, I want that sucker done and no, we're gonna clarify it this way. And they're like, oh, okay, fine, because they don't know the difference. Well, we do. We ought to.
Yeah, we should. All right, appraisal addendums, along with escalation clauses. We haven't seen this for a while, but agents were drafting appraisal addendums saying that the buyer was willing to pay X dollars above the appraised amount, so that it gave the seller more confidence about that they could get more money to maximize the seller's return. There again, they were doing them without floors and without ceilings in the addendum, so that left them open. So there again, if you're gonna do an escalation, get with Sean and make sure that you're using the right verbiage. It's best if you don't use non-attorney drafted or crafted forms. Use the industry forms if at all possible. And then there again, we have forms that we prefer that augment that as well. So just make sure that if you're doing something kind of unique or a little different, make sure you run that by us so that we make sure that it covers what it needs to. 1031 exchanges. 1031 is the part of the tax code that talks about exchanging like-kind properties and avoiding paying capital gains on those properties. If you have any questions on that, there are a lot of forms on the MLS relative to that. If you have questions about 1031 exchanges, I do a 1031 class that we could schedule, or you can just ask questions on that. Okay. All right, notices and rejected offers. So in section 18 of the purchase contract, it talks about notices. And the language in section 18 talks about section 18 talks about the fact that the notices need to be conveyed to both parties, and that they need to be done in writing, and they need to be signed. So notices are not verbal; they're official written documents to each party. Section 23 of the REPC also talks about notices, where it talks about acceptance. Acceptance has to be noticed. What's the difference between section 23, where it's talking about acceptance being communicated, and section 18? Any ideas? Section 23 says that acceptance is not given until both parties have signed acceptance and that that's been communicated to both parties. So there's mutual communication and mutual acceptance with section 23. With a notice, you can send a notice over via email, but it doesn't necessarily have to have the same degree of notice as in section 23, okay? This is kind of an interesting one here, handling rejected offers. I don't think we in general, including myself, handle rejected offers the best way. The easiest way to deal with a rejected offer is what?
Ignore it.
Oh, and they go on the bid.
Yeah, I
You
think,
wouldn't ignore it, Justin, because you would have talked to your seller about it, certain,
yes,
that your seller could choose to not do anything and let it.
yes,
That's what I.
yeah, that's what you mean. It's just a matter, it's just a matter of few words. So I think Justin's talking about automatic expiration is what he's talking
I'm
about.
talking about my seller making the decisions,
Yes.
or that I get to communicate those decisions to the other parties.
Yes. So automatic expiration is that if no response is received within the specified time frame, the offer automatically expires on its own. How many of you typically do that? Automatic expiration. I raise my hand. I'm guilty of that because it's easy. Doesn't take our time, right? Then there's documentation. All rejected offers, regardless of how they were declined, must be retained in a permanent transaction file for record keeping purposes. That short sale that I was just talking about, we've received probably 15 offers on that property. I'm an old man, so I keep paper files as well as command. My file right now is about this thick. It's crazy. I've killed so many trees and I apologize for that. And it's even hard to carry around. I'm gonna have to get a cart pretty soon to carry it into the office. But you need to hold on to your old offers. Okay, just because it's history doesn't mean you get rid of it, because it could rear its ugly head down the road. And so you want to make sure you keep track of all your offers, whether you do it physically or whether you do it in command. That's up to you. Command is best because it's paperless, but hold on to all of your offers. An offer received is an offer that's retained. Remember that. An offer received is an offer that's retained. You've got to keep it in your file. Here's the best practice, and all of us are about best practice, right? Best practice for maximum clarity is that we recommend as the Division of Real Estate to mark the offer rejected, have the party sign it and initial it, and to return that back to the buyer's agent. That's best practice for all of your rejected offers, okay? So let's all of us try to strive for that. That's gonna be hard for me, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, because of time.
Especially when you get those stupid cash offers here.
And it's in your inbox and
I
there's
just
like
sent it to
zero
my buyer.
communication.
I'm like, my sellers, I'm like, can you just respond or back? Yep, I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. So if every time I list a property, I'd say to my seller, look, we're gonna have those investors and those bottom feeders that are gonna send us an offer that's below our asking price. At what point, at what purchase price do you want me not to bother you with the offer? And let them specify that, because I'm asking for instruction, right? And I do it as part of the listing agreement and an addendum. That I've been instructed not to present any offers that are below X dollars. And so that's how you protect yourself. But then I don't have to worry about that. I receive the offer and I know it's automatically rejected because they told me not even to present it. So I send an email back to the buyer's agent and say, sorry, this offer's been rejected. It's the truth. It has. Told me not to.
But even though
present.
you guided them to say that, you can do that.
That's what I do.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm following their instructions,
That's
you know? All right, so here are disciplinary actions. These actions here require judicial review. So if you were found guilty of these instances, you're gonna go before the division. On the basis of violation of this chapter, the commission violation of this chapter, the commission with, I'm having a hard time reading that.
Also, if you violate.
On the basis of violation of this chapter, the commission with the concurrence of the director may issue an order. Okay, so if you're found, if you're found guilty of a disciplinary action, these are the possible things that can happen to you with that judicial review. They can impose an education requirement, which 9 times out of 10, that's the case. Here is fourth quarter's disciplinary actions. There's 3 pages of them. This was in the newsletter in January.
Because they're only the egregious ones.
Yeah, yeah, they're
Because
yeah.
they should use the rules that if it's like, it's only for very egregious offenses.
Yeah.
That they can post it.
Yeah, that they post it, you know, we're getting kinder and softer to all people. We don't want to offend anybody. So unless you're really a problem child, you're not going to show up in the newsletter. Here's an example where this particular agent failed on 2 occasions to deposit the earnest money with his brokerage and ultimately ended up losing the earnest money, and then the earnest money had to be replaced. And so he ended up with an $8,000 penalty. And he had to have 3 hours of continuing education during the next license renewal period. So
$8,000. Something tells me that was not that guy's first offense.
no. And if you're a frequent flyer, it's,
Your fines get heavier and heavier,
yeah,
guys.
fines get heavier. The weird thing about that is his license wasn't put on probation, which typically they are, which means if you have another offense during that probationary period, you can lose your license. They did in that case, but he got a significant penalty for that. So the penalties could be from $5,000 to $10,000 per violation. If a person that you knew, if a person involved that you took advantage of was 65 years of age or older, then there's also that senior predatory thing that kicks in, that you're a predator to seniors, and so the penalties are enhanced. So, in a few months, I can qualify for that, so don't take advantage of it.
Actually didn't realize that.
Yeah, was.
I didn't realize that over 65, it was an additional fine because it's a vulnerable.
Yeah, vulnerable. Yeah, seniors are vulnerable. All right. In a manner determined by the division shall inform the principal broker. So this is what happens if you do have a judicial review and are found guilty of the violation. The division will inform the principal broker. So Sean will get a very nice letter or email from the division that will state a complaint was made against the division of the licensee and require a written response from the licensee. Typically, the way that works in the real world is that Sean is going to work with you on that response. It's up to you to gather the documents that you need, the correspondence that you need, but he will assist you in that. He also wants to kind of review the response and make sure that it's thorough, it's complete, that it's politically correct, all of that stuff before it's sent to the division. A violation alleged against the licensee by the division, the time and place for a disciplinary hearing with regard to the issue. I know that often Sean will call and talk to the investigator. There's a particular investigator that's assigned to the case. And so Sean will call if there's questions about, you know, why, how, what is it they're actually looking for, try to gain additional information on that. But they don't give you much time. That's why it's important that your documents are orderly. I think the typical response time is 5 business days or less to pull all of this together. And these transactions can be from years in the past. There is no statute of limitations on this. So that's why it's important to have thorough, complete documents. And then your response is sent to the division. If the division feels that there's enough evidence to warrant a hearing with the division, then a time and place for the disciplinary hearing is set. The resolution of violation alleged described in the subsection, it has the thing there. Upon inquiry for the principal broker regarding the affiliated licensee, disciplinary actions made by the division against the licensee for the past 5 years, resolution of the disciplinary actions. So that stays on your record, so to speak, for 5 years. And so they'll look back and see if you have other actions that are against you. And like we talked about, if you're a frequent flyer, each time the penalty is going to get worse and worse, more and more severe. Okay. So, well, ultimately, you're going to be put on probation or lose your license. The division may inactivate the registration of the real estate brokerage if upon, this is talking about the principal broker and the death of the principal broker. And I don't know why they go on and on about this, but we're going to basically cover this. Know that there's a process if there's a change in principal broker, and in particular, if the principal broker dies or is critically ill, then there's certain reporting that needs to be done to the division ahead of that event in order to keep the validity of the brokerage moving forward. And we're not going to really talk about this. It really doesn't pertain.
Fun fact, the reason this did come up is because there was actually no provision in place for what to do if a principal broker died. And locally, a lot of people know Deion Smith, and it happened.
Yeah.
And earnest money was like, no one else had signing rights in her brokerage. It was the situation for her. So that's actually where this came from, because the division had never thought of that. They just never thought that somebody might die, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, if your principal broker dies, so does the rest of you.
Yeah, everything else just
You know, it just stops. You can't do business until that's corrected. So it's a thing.
I've John's health.
John's golden.
This is now in place. So
Yeah.
no, it's not as big of a deal. It just, there was no divisional rules of what to do. And so it was just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. All right, so this is about the lead-based paint disclosure and pamphlet. Very, very serious, very serious. If you're not emailing the pamphlet to your buyers, here's what possibly can happen. You are responsible for each transaction, and you can be fined $11,000 per violation, with a maximum of $200,000 in violations over your career, and you can spend up to 1 year in prison if you don't share that. I don't have the answer to that question, but it is very important for your clients to have that information. Most people aren't going to go to the time and trouble to test for lead-based paint. It's kind of, 1978 and older, it's been so long, but until HUD changes the law, that is the law.
Yeah.
So whether we like it or not, that's what we need to do. So make sure you're compliant when it comes to lead-based paint disclosure and the pamphlet. I'll be very honest. I struggle with the pamphlet, and I've done much better recently with that. And so it is an issue.
To send it.
Send
the
it.
same time you
Yeah,
send
I'm
it.
good about sending the disclosures, but there's a 16-page pamphlet that basically tells people not to let their children chew on the door frames in the house.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you used to have to, remember, like in the brokerage, you have to like get them out of the living room.
It's huge document. It's kind of cumbersome. That's good. Good idea. Smart. All right, here's a new one, guys. This FinCEN. This is a regulation that starts March 1st. You need to get with your title company.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this yet, pay attention because I'm playing with it right now.
Okay, so tell us about your particular situation.
I'm selling a house. It's being bought by somebody who's purchasing it with an LLC. And like once you're through it once, it's not too big of a deal. This one went pretty smoothly, but they just changed how everything works. So your title company's got new marching orders that they have to get through, or they need more documents, et cetera, et cetera. It's not, it's a little more involved than it was prior to this.
You just have to know.
Basically proof of where the funds are coming from.
Yes,
Right.
yeah.
Because, I guess the big thing, money laundering, and things
Yeah.
like that through the real estate.
Yeah, money laundering. So basically, there's 3 or 4 buckets that the transaction will fit into in order to be scrutinized under this. It's gonna be, it can be a high value transaction, so high dollar amount. It can be a cash purchase. All cash purchases are gonna trigger this. And then, the other one that's gonna trigger this is if it is an LLC. If it's a corporate entity, it's gonna trigger. So if you're dealing with a buyer that's one of those 3 categories, or your transaction falls into one of those 3 categories, get with your title company in advance. Find out what paperwork is needed and get a head start on that, so it doesn't delay closing.
Thing is it falls all on the buyer's side of it. The seller doesn't even have to know what's happening.
Yep, yep. And like DJ said, it's all about tracing cash. It's all about money laundering. They want to know where the funds are coming from and all that, so.
It doesn't matter mobile park.
Only the government can have money.
It doesn't matter mobile park, they don't have to have it. Okay, well, but I don't go through a title company.
No, it doesn't go through a title company. Yeah. It's not a high value transaction. They are cash though. It doesn't meet the criteria. All right, let's take a brief break. We've got some treats and drinks for you over there. Let's take 5 minutes, return to what phone calls you need, and then we're gonna finish this up when we come back. We're almost done.
I think there's
I mean, there's so many things you just don't pay attention to. I feel like.
Get down there. It's like 8%. I think that's-
I didn't know how the benefits of somebody. I know.
I used to, before command, I used to know how to do it. I know. Not, I'd rather be awesome.
I would absolutely like
Like super. So I made. But. Okay.
But yeah, that's pretty good. Do say so. Okay. So your manager?
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
yeah, I have to live by it. Everything has to go in here. Even little. Like. Be in here. But yeah, anything green is. Green is for kids, and then his family thing, so the kids are in school or. Like for the people say with this picture now. Which technically. No.
A copy of what was, you said what kind of property was I.
I think I helped them get the property to look. Because I have. Well, we're living. And I feel like. You really want so I wrote. I wrote a novel. This price. The next way. So I put it on the board, like, if needed. 559. It was just a way to be able to go get offer written down. But. That's good. As far as language, you know, you can look at them all. Yeah. But. Probably wouldn't talk. Funny thing is. We're doing now. We did all the service.
Let's go ahead and get at it. Now that we have some sugar in our system. So this next section has really become an issue for the division.
Wow. We're coming back together. Yeah, do that, Kenny. Pull out the kindergarten teacher. 1, 2, 3 guys on me.
All right. So advertising. With the advent of the internet and social media, there's been a lot of issues with advertising. So this is in the Administrative Code 162.2 F401H, talks about requirements and restrictions in advertising. Except as provided in subsections 2 and 3, a licensee shall not advertise or permit any person employed or affiliated with the licensee to advertise real estate services or property in any medium without clear and conspicuous identifying in the advertisement the name of the brokerage in which the licensee is affiliated. The division may bring an action for enforcement of this subsection after the expiration of 4 years following the occurrence of the violation. So it doesn't, so the fact that the property sells or expires doesn't relinquish you of that liability. It goes on for 4 years. So very important. There was a case 2 years ago that a brokerage got involved in. They listed a property. It was a high-end property. And one of the agents in the office asked if they could come to this property because it was a beautiful home. And he actually scheduled a showing, but instead of doing a showing, he actually did a photo shoot. He ended up taking pictures of the house rather than showing the house. And the listing agent told this agent, hey, the seller has very specific requirements about taking pictures inside the house. They had a lot of very expensive art. They had Rembrandts and all kinds of very expensive art and has millions and millions of dollars worth of art. And they didn't want that art distributed on the internet. So the listing agent was very careful not to take any pictures of that. Well, this guy did. He went in, took pictures of this art. Fortunately, he showed the pictures to the listing agent of the house, and the listing agent said, you can't put those on the internet. You can't show those because it's in violation of what the seller asked us not to do. But here's the problem, guys. The company that he had come in with him and shoot the photos, they put it on their website. And a lot of photographers do that, right? All of us use photographers where they have their own website and they put it on there. So that was a violation of that agreement. And the seller ended up filing a lawsuit for $1 million against that licensee and his brokerage because they violated that agreement. So even though the agent didn't do the work himself, he didn't put the photos on the internet, his photographer did on his custom site. It still created problems for everybody. So
sounds like they should have sued the photographer.
They sued everybody. Yeah, they sued the photographer, they sued the listing broker,
Yeah, I guess my thought though is if I take you as buyer, we go look through a house and you take a picture and you post that picture on your social media website, whatever, how is that mine? Like,
that's not the case.
That's not what he did.
That's not what he did. He hired a photographer to come in and shoot the property.
We wanted to advertise.
And he told the agent told the other agent, don't put them on the internet. But that he forgot to tell the photographer, don't put them on your website. So that was the problem, is that it was for hire. So yeah, that's the problem here. So just be mindful, if there is a restriction with your seller on how they want the interior photographs or even exterior photographs on a particular property to be handled, and you use a professional photographer that puts them on their own website or creates a custom website for you, make sure that that's a component that has to be managed as well.
And the listing agent did the right thing.
Yes.
Did for the other agent that came in. The listing agent didn't get in trouble with the other agent that broke.
Right. And he actually did the right thing by having the listing agent review the photos. But where it fell short is that he didn't convey that to the photographer. And he was really excited to put this beautiful home on his website, right? It's kind of a trophy home. And so anyway, it caused problems. So just be careful. You know, if you do use a photographer that does a third-party site, you know, maybe you want to preview that before they do it or give them some guidance on that.
So I have a question about that.
Mhm.
So what if, say, you're the listing agent and the buyers, and you have multiple offers and the buyer's agent comes in and says, oh, we got this, it puts this on their social media that, oh, we got this with the right offer, blah, 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 with your pictures. What happens with that?
Well, they can't do it unless you give them written permission to do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so do you just call them and say, take that down, or what do you do?
Yeah, but the problem is once it goes on the internet, it can't be taken down. I mean, once on, it's always on. Just like the site with the photographer, they can take it off. But if somebody does a search, you can still go back and find it. That's the problem with the whole situation. But like it says here, you know, that it can't be advertised. So a buyer's agent will often ask, hey, can I take pictures of your property to put them on my social profile? The way that works is that technically you're supposed to ask the seller, hey, this buyer's agent wants to take pictures of your property. Are you okay with that? Because it says that they need to get written permission from you and the seller. When you give permission, the buyer's agent assumes, wrongly maybe, assumes that you got permission from the seller. So just make sure that if you do have somebody who wants to come in and film the property, that they have permission from you and that you've notified the seller.
Well, I've had it happen where somebody, I saw it on somebody's email, or I mean, somebody's social media
Yeah.
later, and it was my listing
Yeah.
and they didn't ask.
Yeah,
And there was no real estate brokerage or anything on there.
yeah, they're in violation of this
Okay,
administrative.
but I wouldn't be, right?
No,
No.
because they didn't ask you.
I could've-
Yeah, you weren't a participant in that. So requirement and restrictions for advertising. When it's not reasonable for licensee to identify the name of brokerage, this is talking about when you post stuff on social media, you need to put the name of the brokerage and your name on there unless it's not reasonable for you to do so. There's very few situations that would be the case, but you should post, it's the one-click rule. Your identification is one click away from the advertisement. Does everybody understand that rule? Okay. All right, if you were a team, it does not exempt you from putting that information on your advertising. Okay, it needs to be everybody on the team, everybody in the group, everybody in the brokerage. The name of the brokerage identified by the licensee in the advertisement should be the same name as shown on the division records. So in our case, it's Keller Williams Success, right?
Keller Williams Success, KW Success, Keller Williams Realty. Guys, just put your logos and stuff on it.
Yeah.
Can we just put KW Success and we have to put that whole thing?
Says it has to be the name. I think if you put KW Success, will be okay.
But I.
That's typically.
So I use the hashtag of our Instagram as that identifier on there.
So I just like some clarification on what counts as, okay, it's actually, I think, right in front of me, written consent before, well, maybe not. So as far as social media goes, so there's the advertising of property, services and stuff like that, but then there's just like content posts or, I think it just gets sticky. We need some clarification, or I need some clarification of like, what if I'm just doing a post about, here's some tips and tricks for this or this, but it's still me as an agent.
They'll have to click back to the one-click rule. So if they click
Okay.
on your name, can they easily, the division is basically has, and by the way, they do not give two shits, whatever your excuse is on this, and they are finding people for it all of the time.
Yeah.
It must be clear that you are an agent with what brokerage. That must be clear.
So even if it's like on social media profile, like I'm
Yes,
a
because that's a one-click rule, or like a reel or something like that. Yeah, or a reel or whatever, but just if you have your logo on it, then that's fine, but they have to identify you're with a brokerage with one click.
Yeah.
So it can't be hidden, they don't have to go search, they shouldn't have to, like, if you have a link tree and it clicks directly into that, great, that's a one click.
So they did tell us that they've hired 2 investigators last fall, and all they do is serve social media. Yeah. So they're taking it seriously because they hired investigators, but that's all they do is look at everybody's social media. And then they also field complaints as well.
So I have a question. Justin said, if you put a post up with information about like what she was saying, these are the things that you do for cleaning, da da da. And then you put a statement in there and down on the bottom in the hashtags, it has your name and it has the broker's name and another hashtag. Is that enough?
Can they find who you are with one click? Do you have the one click in addition to that? In addition
If
to
they
the
click back on
hashtags?
your profile.
Yeah,
would
if they
see
click
that
back on
you're
the
with-
profile, they see that you're an agent with Keller Williams.
Probably.
But
Makes
if
sense.
they click that hashtag, it goes to the Keller Williams page. So.
Yeah, I think you're okay.
I mean, like,
So this is in referring to all advertising. So you as an influencer or you as a social media provider need to have written permission to advertise a property, to display pictures of somebody else's listing. It's a good idea to get permission on your own listing. You know, ask your seller for permission to put their home on social media. There might be some reason why they don't want to do that. Also, just some sage advice. If you are going to post pictures, don't post pictures with family pictures in the photos, especially children. People really don't want their children typically plastered all over the internet. Some people are very protective of that. So avoid taking pictures of families. I tell my listings, take your family photos down. Because what it does is it's distracting the buyers. They stop and they gawk at family photos.
Guidance for email signature. Your email signature does it need to have one click there? I mean, do you need to have your KW?
No, not on your email because it's not public. Social media is public.
But I might question, why would you not want an email
Yeah.
signature that's clickable?
Yeah, I mean, I would think you'd want to have it on there, just let everybody you send an email to knows.
Just
You're an
giving
agent.
the-
in the back.
If you're hosting an open house for an agent and the agent advertises that they're having an open house, would you still have to ask for consent to share that, marketing?
You're doing an open house for another agent, and you want to post pictures about that?
No, so you're hosting an open house for an agent, and that agent, makes a post about the open house. Would you still have to ask for consent to share that post?
So,
It has public settings probably.
yeah, I don't think so.
if it's in the brokerage, if it's someone in the brokerage.
Yeah,
Sean owns all the listings.
yeah, you already have consent
already
as a
have
Keller
consent.
Williams success agent.
And I mean, I guess, could it go astray? Sure, but if I've communicated and I'm gonna hold an open house for Ken and Ken knows I'm holding an open house, surely he wants me to advertise it. I don't think that's where you're gonna get in trouble.
So what he's saying is if it's on Facebook, you share that Facebook.
Yeah.
No.
That's what he said.
All right, two more questions and we gotta move on.
So this one probably is similar to that one. What if Dalton has a listing, but I want to use it and do Facebook marketing, like buy ads on that? Do I need to get written consent from him and from his seller?
Well,
Or
you don't
just
get
from
it from
him?
the seller, he gets it from the seller. And then gives you.
Even
gives
though
you
we're the
consent.
same, brokerage?
What's that?
Even though we're the same brokerage, okay.
I'm sorry, I gotta, one more.
That's not so big.
Go ahead.
So is there a loophole around that with using an IDX link?
Why are we talking about loopholes?
Play the devil's advocate for you.
No.
Why? I mean,
Okay, let's move on. So prohibited conduct for licensees. So you cannot place a sign on a property without written consent of the property owner. You cannot advertise the property to sell or lease without written consent. You guys see what the common theme is here? Written consent, okay? Advertise or sell without written consent, the owners of the property. If property is currently listed, the listing broker advertise or offer to sell the property at a lower price than listed without written consent of the seller or the lessor. There's been, oddly enough, and I don't know why this is the case, but there's been several agents that have plagiarized a listing and then listed it on social media for less money than the list price. And I don't know why, that seems so bizarre to me. But other businesses are just trying to get clicks, they're trying to get buyers. And that's fraud, that's under the definition of fraud, okay? All right, record keeping. Basically, this says that you guys need to keep records of all your transactions, earnest money received, REPSI's agreements for 3 years. Okay,
Oh, we can check them after.
any document signed by a buyer or seller, any document created or executed in a transaction needs to be saved as well, okay? The principal broker, this is talking about the principal broker needs to save all those as well. So there's a record keeping requirement.
Which
Um,
Sunday. Like, call that.
Yeah, just make sure everything's in command and you'll be golden. All right. All right, so here's just some technicalities. Notice the division within 10 days. Notify the division in writing within 10 days, 10 business days after terminating business operation as to where your records are going to be maintained. This is the brokerage has an obligation to the division. If they're going to shut down a branch or a division, then they have to notify the division of that shutting down. So yeah, that's the property management. All right, this is another big one. Unlicensed assistants. We get more questions about this than just about anything. What can an unlicensed assistant do? What can't they do? How can they be compensated? So let's go through this. It's very, very important. To employ an unlicensed individual to provide assistance in connection with real estate transactions, the licensee, the individual license shall obtain the permission of licensee's principal broker for employing the individual. So get with Sean and tell Sean what your plans are as far as hiring some help. He's going to want to know what they're going to do for you and how they're going to be compensated. It is your obligation to supervise the assistant to ensure that duties of the licensee assistant are limited to those that do not require a real estate license, including the following: performing clerical duties, including making appointments for prospects to meet with the licensee, but only if contact is initiated from the prospect and not the unlicensed assistant. So in other words, you can't hire somebody to do outbound calling for you. They can't do that, but they can take inbound calling and set appointments for you if it's inbound. At open houses, they can distribute printed material written by the licensee. They can act as a courier for delivering documents, picking up keys, similar services, lock boxes, stuff like that, as long as they do not engage with the public, placing brokerage signs on listed properties, having keys made for listings, securing public records for the county records office, zoning, sewer, etc. You can compensate a personal assistant at a predetermined rate is not. So a predetermined rate is going to mean what? It's going to mean either an hourly rate or a salary, but it is not paying somebody contingent on the occurrence of a real estate transaction. So you can't compensate your unlicensed assistant and say, hey, I'm going to pay you $500 a transaction. You can't do that. They have to be paid a fixed income or determined through a commission split or commission sharing. Prohibit the assistant from engaging in telephone solicitation or other activity calculated to result in securing prospects for real estate transactions except as provided in section 2.1. So that refers to inbound calls. They can't be doing outbound calling. Any questions on unlicensed assistants?
Yeah, so I have a question. So like you couldn't just say like pay somebody $100 to put out all your signs?
Yeah. Okay, so this is that land fraud thing. I think Marcia brought up, or one of you brought up, that there's a big problem right now with land fraud. There's people that are calling us as agents and representing that they own land. Why are they picking land?
It's not at the
No,
table.
Yeah, nobody lives on it. You know, there's not somebody there that's gonna stop somebody from going and looking at the property. It's an easy pick. So, ways to mitigate that is to, research the title. And they're also putting property up for rent. That's very, very common too. Even residences, they're taking our pictures off the MLS, creating KSL ads, saying that the property is for sale. Has anybody experienced that personally? Don't you have?
I get them all the time.
Really? Have you had somebody actually list your property? You have, Justin?
I haven't had them list my property.
Tell us about that.
They just steal the pictures and they post it for rent. And people call me on my rentals and say, I see it's listed for this. I'm like, yeah, no, it's not. Or they'll call me saying, well, I saw it listed for less and
Yeah.
I got your number.
But they'll actually go through with it. They'll tell them, hey, I'm out of state. I got relocated, so I'm gonna send you a lease agreement. You sign it, you wire me the money. Or Venmo me the money, and then I'm gonna mail you the keys because I'm out of state.
There was one in Roy that people actually moved in. And the cops had to get them to get out. And they had rented from a fraudulent person, but the house was vacant.
Yeah.
Lost all their money and were out on the street.
Yeah. Yeah, it is so common. One of my agent friends had that happen to a listing in Bountiful. People moved in over the weekend. He goes to show the house on Tuesday. Locks have been changed. They're living in the house and yeah, it's a mess. Because then you have to go through the eviction process. They think they're legit. Hey, I signed a lease. I paid my first month's rent, my security deposit. You know, so now you've got to go to court and get them evicted. And there's a couple of months, you know, to go through that process. So it's a mess, but the land thing is much easier for them because there's nobody there to screen. They do the same thing. Hey, I'm the owner. I can sell the property, and then they take the people's money and run. They really don't own it. So meet the person in person, ask for photo ID, check the county records to make sure that the person that you're meeting is the person that's on title. Run things by the title company to make sure that things are cool. Protect email accounts. I'm not sure how you do that.
One thing that they are suggesting on this is like you should be changing your passwords frequently, and you should have a two-step authentication on your email because they are actually finding that a lot of the fraudulent stuff is coming from agents using like Yahoo accounts or older, or like a Gmail that they haven't changed the password for 20 years or whatever. So that's where like a lot of wire fraud stuff's coming from. So you should have two-factor authentication turned on too.
There you go.
And sorry, I got confused on what you were asking me. I get these land listing propositions all the time. It's always through Zillow, presumably always through the Zillow. They find me on Zillow and they're like, hey, this is a deal to do, right? And be exception. They're getting very good.
Yeah.
The photo ID that they'll provide looks and acts legit. Like, get a good title agent that can help you dig on people too, because they have resources we don't. And at the end of it all, trust your gut. Right? Not one single one of these people has ever wanted to know what I charge before they want me to just list their land.
They're very
giant
eager.
red flag, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they're getting very good at it.
That's good though. I mean, most people want to talk price fairly early on in the conversation,
It's
right?
a discussion, like, and I mean, you can't just use one lever to assign it, but like, if you're getting calls from a guy who lives in Wisconsin, but owns land in Utah, and he has a, Washington DC area code, like, start adding up the total of the equation. And if you're just not feeling it, go ask somebody else's opinion, like, get some other people involved. Because worst case scenario, they're legit and you can, verify that and move forward, but I nearly listed a place down in near Arches there. And I mean, my escrow agent actually found the guy somehow through some way, and he's a internet security dude. So like, he's wiped himself off the internet. And so like, it was 2 or 3 days worth of working to make sure this was actual legit, the photo ID checked out, all that sort of stuff. You have to go hard, but trust your gut.
There you go, there you go. If it's land, be
It's land
cautious.
For sure. Land.
All right, let's look at a unauthorized marketing social media case study, shall we? All right, who can read this? Anybody?
Front row.
You want to read it for me, please?
Okay, background. The respondent is a licensed real estate sales agent who has been active in the industry since 2016. Until the events described below, the respondent had no prior disciplinary history. The following case study outlines a series of advertising and marketing violations occurring between late 2023 and late 2024.
So this guy's been in the business for quite a while and he has a clean record, so he's not a troublemaker.
Okay, overview. The investigation centered on the respondent's use of social media, Instagram and Facebook, and television appearances to market properties without proper authorization or required disclosures. Number 1, unauthorized video marketing. In January 2024, the respondent filmed a video of a property while waiting for a client. The respondent did not obtain permission from the listing broker or the owner to film, posted the video to social media after the original listing had been canceled, gave the impression in a television interview and social media captions, "Now it's for sale," that he was the listing agent, and failed to disclose his affiliated brokerage in the video or post.
Okay, so how does that sound? Sound pretty good so far? It sounds like it's up to you.
But it also
Okay.
kind of sounds like, I don't mean in an innocent way, but maybe in uneducated. To me, that just sounds uneducated, right? Like, oh, I'm already here, I'll just hurry and do a quick video. Like, so part of it kind of, I can see how you would fall into that, right? Not to say that you should, but I'm just here, I'm wasting time, I'll just take a quick video.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets a little bit more obscure when he's like, oh, but now I'm the listing agent. That
Yeah.
obviously becomes
it's
much
for sale.
more, yeah, like that's shady. But at the beginning, I can kind of see, I mean, I've been in houses before where I'm like, oh, that was scary, and I took a picture and posted it on Facebook. And now I'm starting to think that's not the best idea,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or this is something interesting you'd never see anywhere else. And in my mind, I kept thinking, well, no one knows where I'm at. I haven't designated the house in any way. Like, I should be okay. But I can see where that fine line starts to get, you can get pretty close to it without realizing.
Yeah, yeah.
At the beginning.
Yeah, it starts out pretty innocent, right? But then you kind of wonder, what was his real motivation? Because he took it further, he took it to the next step. So continue reading.
Okay, number 2, persistent marketing of inactive listings. The division discovered that the respondent continued to market 5 additional properties on social media that he no longer had valid listing agreements for, properties that had either expired or already sold. Despite the listings being inactive, the respondent's videos explicitly stated the properties were for sale. When confronted by the division, the respondent initially refused to remove the videos, claiming he did not believe he was actively marketing them, despite his verbal statements in the recordings to the contrary.
Wow.
And number 3, brokerage disclosure failures. Across all social media advertisements for these properties, the respondent failed to include the name of his affiliated brokerage, a violation of state advertising rules for digital formats.
So bad boy. A, he didn't get permission to take the photos. B, then he takes it a step further and posts them. Step 3, he indicates that they are for sale, but they're not really for sale. So his intention is to try to pick up buyers for other properties, right? And then he adds 5 other properties, including this other one that he's doing the same thing on. So now he has this scheme where he's trying to generate a lot of interest that he really doesn't have a right to do, right? So let's go on and see what the division ended up doing with this.
So the violations indicated where the state regulatory body cited several breaches of the Real Estate Licensing and Practices Act. First, intentional misrepresentation, making false or misleading statements regarding the availability of real estate. Incompetent, acting in a manner that fails to safeguard the interests of the public. Advertising violations, failing to include the affiliated brokerage name in online advertisements or the one-click link. Lack of consent, advertising or offering to sell property without written consent of the property owners. Industry standards, failing to conform to accepted standards of real estate sales and professional conduct.
Right. So let's see what the resolution with the division was. You want to read that?
To resolve the matter expeditiously, is that right?
Uh-huh.
And waive the right to a formal
Adjunctive.
adjudicative proceeding. The respondent entered into a stipulation with the following penalties.
So he basically accepted a plea deal.
After he told them they were wrong first.
Yeah.
Right? First civil penalty, a fine of $3,350 to be paid within 90 days. Additional education, completion of 6 hours of continuing education, 3 hours in advertising, and 3 hours in Utah real estate law beyond the standard licensing requirements. 3, public reprimand. Oh, that's embarrassing. The stipulation is classified as a public record and published in the division quarterly newsletter, so that thing you had earlier. 4, license probation, failure to comply with the fine or education requirements results in the immediate suspension of the respondent's license until compliance is met.
And what are the key takeaways?
They are: consent is mandatory. Never film or market a property without express written permission from the owner or listing broker. And 2, update social media promptly. Once a listing expires or sells, marketing materials must be removed or updated to reflect the true status of the property to avoid misleading the public.
I think that last one is important to note because how many of you right now, if you scrolled through your Facebook or your Instagram and you
57
saw
listings still in the-
single one that you did you go through and update the comments to say sold? I'm guessing most of us are guilty of that. And
So is putting it in the comments not, or do we?
I think putting it in the comments, I think as long as it's not looking like it's actively for sale. So I think as long as it's in, like, I would probably change the list. I would probably change the description.
What if you
And
have
have the
MLS
first
link
thing
on it
say
and then you
sold.
click on it?
That was my-
One click away.
I don't know. We'd have to ask the division on that one.
What if you put another post that said it sold that's separate from that original?
Right.
We had one conversation last night.
I think we did too, and I feel like they basically said you have to, has to be clear it's sold, right?
So put a banner on it or something that way, to show that it's sold. The fact that you make an effort to designate that it's sold or it's been taken off the market and not available anymore is what's key. But both of those are very important. Never film or market a property without express written permission of the listing agent or the listing broker. So that's regardless, even if you are just killing time in a listing, make sure that you have permission to do the recordings. And then make sure that you're updating your social media to show the true status of your properties. Any other questions on that? Okay.
That's correct.
So one-click rule, all digital marketing must be clearly identifiable with the affiliate brokerage, professionalism over virality. Virality, what does that mean? Virality, look that up. If a photo contains publicly available info.
So is it going viral? Is that what it is? Yes.
Okay, so it is going viral. Then content and presentation must imply the listing status. That does. The context and presentation must not imply a status that does not exist. So it needs to be the true status.
So like he was saying in his videos, like when he was saying these houses are available.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was concerned more about who's looking.
Yep. So they just got a little grid down here talking about what are the implications for the different things that he committed on that case study: misrepresentation, incompetence, deceptive advertising, failure to identify the brokerage. Administrative rule, these rules provide for granular detail on what licensees are forbidden from doing. Subsection prohibits conduct that fails to conform to accepted industry standards to jeopardize public welfare. You know, we need to truly represent the way things are. Status of properties. All right, one click rule. Here's your checklist for social media. To avoid pitfalls, in this case study, licensee should follow the basic steps as posted. Written consent. Do I have signed listing agreement or written permission from the owner listing broker to film or post this property? Accuracy, is the property accurately still active on the MLS? Branding, is my brokerage name clearly visible? Is there a direct link to my bio or caption to that lead? Clarity, does the caption accurately reflect my role by being a listing broker versus I can show this home? The penalty for violating this section of the code of section 162 is $3,350. That's a civil penalty, 3 hours of continuing education on advertising and 3 hours of continuing education on Utah law. So it's pretty severe. And that's it.
We made it.
We are done.
Thank you, Ken. This is very helpful.
Thank you guys for being here. Hopefully that wasn't too painful. The worst of your city classes are over. We'll celebrate.
Thank you so much, Ken.
Thank you.
There's still treats out there too, so.
Take a bunch of that stuff home.
I have your certificates. So what's that? You lose your C credit.
Yeah.
And they're fine with this.
Hey, hold on to your certificate. Let me tell you a little story.
Hey, listen up.
So with this new program that the state went to, from Realms to this new system. When I went to renew my license in January, I went to the system and I had 0 CE credit hours on my new profile. I had 35 CE credit hours, which I had taken during the last 2 years. It took me 2.5 weeks to gather up all my certificates from all those classes and send it to the state to prove that I had the hours. So, yeah. So this new system is wonky. So until they get the bugs worked out of this new licensing system, hold on to those because you may need them like I did.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ladies, thank you so much. Thank you. Too crazy, is it? No, it's like all the things are already. And so when did they? Bye. Yeah. So, I love the book.
Yeah.